The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tampa City Council this evening. Did you guys miss us during the day? For those of you that are watching, I know you did, because I've gotten text messages why there's no City Council today or CRA today. So we did not have a meeting this morning, so we're going to start, like all government meetings, with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please, everybody stand and rise, face the flag. Councilman Maniscalco, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, can we have a roll?
Miranda.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Hurtek. Here. Vieira. Here. Carlson.
Here.
Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Here. Okay, well, first thing let's do, Councilman Carlson had previously submitted a memo requesting that he attend virtually. Can I get a motion to allow him to participate? We have a motion from Councilman Hurtek, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Councilman Carlson, you're officially back on the team.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with an agenda review. I believe Stephanie's going to kick that off.
Hello, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
We have some items to clear on the agenda this evening. Item number 13, REZ 2520. The applicant would like to request a continuance for this item. If granted, this item would be continued to December 11th, 2025. I have confirmed there is space on the agenda. The applicant is here to make this request.
Councilwoman Hurtek.
I have a question for the applicant.
Council members, pardon me. Good evening, William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard. This case it's in a little bit of purgatory right now. Unfortunately, we had a little oopsie with staff about what plan was proper, and what you see or what you're seeing right now is actually 2 plans behind. We couldn't introduce our new information in time. It is much better. We'd like a chance to bring it back as a much more refined product. Thank you.
So my request is, if we grant this continuance, would you be willing to renotice?
Of course, yeah, as long as we have time, and that's December. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes,
plenty
ma'am.
of time. Okay, so that would be, I would approve it obviously we want to hear from the public, but.
Okay, so we have.
Motion to continue to the
Well-
I don't, does a motion continue to require public comment?
Well, sometimes people might be here.
Yeah.
You could ask if there's anybody present.
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to the continuance? Okay, hearing none.
So I motion that we continue file number REZ 25-20 to December 11th, 2025 at 5:01 p.m., 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida 33602, with the condition that it be noticed again.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtek, a second from Councilman Miranda, and a third from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Oh, for a continuance?
Well, it's Councilman Carlson, yes. We have a remote. If it's
Okay.
remote,
Even-
it's
even-
substantive.
Okay, okay, very good. Okay,
Sorry,
let's do a
guys.
roll call. High maintenance bill.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtek. Yes. Vieira.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes,
Motion carried
very good, thank you.
unanimously. Sorry. I just want
Councilwoman
to
Hurtek?
make one comment. As someone who just did this virtually, it's very hard to hear people if you don't speak into the mic. So
Okay, good.
just
Thank you.
for Councilmember Carlson, 'cause
Very
I had a
good.
really hard time.
Stephanie?
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Item number 6, REZ 2530. The applicant has requested the item be moved to the beginning of the agenda. If it is council's pleasure to move this item, it would be heard after item number 3.
Okay, and that is because they have a conflict with another meeting. So if, can I get a motion for move item 6 to between 3 and 4? We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those, roll call? That's housekeeping, right? Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. So we will hear item 6 after item 3.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Item number 4, VAC 2514 is requesting to be opened and heard with item number 5, REZ 2593, since they are related. Should it be the pleasure of council to hear these items together this evening?
Okay, my question is, item number 4 is a non-quasi judicial proceeding. We're going to open up the 501 hearings all at the same time, so it'll be open. Item number 5 is obviously quasi judicial. So I think that we probably should have separate votes on each one of those. So they can present their cases if they'd like to combine the presentation of the cases, and we'll have separate votes on each one of those items.
Okay.
And I don't think I need a motion for that. We'll just, because we're going to open the hearings anyway at the same time. Okay, very good. And is that it?
That is all for the
Okay,
agenda.
very good. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to start the agenda this evening. We have a really special item on the agenda. It's a commendation for our past members of the Racial Reconciliation Committee. I'd like to recognize Councilman Vieira.
And if the members can come up, including you, young man. Come up, Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's a real pleasure to be here, Louis Vieira. We have here Pastor Christopher Harris, who is the vice chair of the committee. Pastor Sutton, who's here, obviously, with TPD. Thank you, sir, for coming. Yes, sir. Or, excuse me, security, I'm sorry.
But I'm retired TPD.
I was going to say, okay, formerly TPD, excuse me, formerly TPD. Fred Hearns, we have here Jarvis Elamine, we have here Kia Wilson, and, or actually, no, she's not here, and Kimberly Williams, who's here. So, this is something, council, that I know we all acknowledge. It's not a point of celebration. It's more of an acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement of something that is ending too soon because of a mandate from the federal government. And so we're here to acknowledge the service of these committee members and those who couldn't be here tonight. The Racial Reconciliation Committee was formed about a year ago or so, I believe, and a lot of hard work put into it, including by all of the good folks who are here, a lot of our City of Tampa staff, Mr. Martin Shelby, my wonderful assistant, Brandon Jordan Lazo, and so many other people who worked hard on it. And, what it sought to do was to simply ask questions, which is to say, look, what issues of racial injustice and racial inequality do we have here in our city of Tampa? It acknowledged the fact that we have 90 years of slavery from the founding of the country, followed by 90 years of Jim Crow that ended 13 years before I was born. This is not ancient history. And it asks, what does this ugly and brutal history have to do with us today? And what ongoing injustices in areas such as housing, such as economic development, such as government contracting, such as mobility, such as returning citizens, and so forth, do we have to talk about today? Unfortunately, thanks to mandates from the federal government, that's something that we can't do. And so we had to shut this down. So to me, again, like I've said before, this is not radical, but to me, to talk about racial injustice is the American thing to do, because there has been no cause that has weighed more heavily on the American heart than racial injustice. And that's what this committee was all about. So based upon that, this work and this acknowledgement, we wanted to honor the wonderful committee members for the work that they have done for our city of Tampa. So let's first give them a round of applause, if we may. And we have our commendation. So I'll present these, if I may, Mr. Chairman, first to Jarvis Elamine. Jarvis, go ahead, sir. Yes, sir. To Pastor Sutton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor, no, give this to this fella.
Yeah,
There you go. Thank you. To Mr. Fred Hearns. Go ahead, sir. We appreciate you, Fred. Thank you. To Pastor Christopher Harris. Pastor. Yes, sir. Kimberly Williams. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And we have here Kia Wilson, who's here. Miss Wilson. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause.
Councilman Miranda.
I just want to say thank you, everyone here, especially what you intended to do, and sorry that we couldn't get to the finish line, but let me just say this. I'm going to be 85 years old, and I've never seen a government like this one. It makes no difference if you're an R, an I, or a D, or whatever you want to call it. Every day there's a crisis. You forget the crisis the day before. And this is like playing Monopoly with yourself. It's not gonna work. I never seen, here's a gentleman dressed as a police officer and served more than likely in the police officer we have all over the country. I've never seen one of them wear a mask. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you for your service on this committee. I was talking to Mr. Hearns earlier at the little reception we had, and the fact that we do have a written documentation from this. We have a place that we can start. There's a place we can go back to. You all can continue to meet personally if you want. We can continue the conversation as private citizens. And at least we have something to start with. I want to say thank you so much for what you've done. It's a good beginning. I don't know that we'll ever be done, but being able to go back and to think about what's happening in the city right now and all of the things that you brought forward were incredibly important, and we really appreciate the time and the effort you took to do this. It was a lot of your time, studying, like just bringing things to the table, and I think that's really important, listening to the community and coming together. And unfortunately, we couldn't get a full written report, but we do have something, and again, it's some place to start and some place to be able to go back to. So thank you for your service.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you to all the board members. Thank you for the time and the effort, a lot of time and sacrifice that you put into this board. I want to personally thank my friend Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, who was at the FRA conference, I believe, with Director McCrae. Wonderful person. You're all wonderful. I know almost all of you, and I mean Jarvis, I've known him 15 years. Mr. Hearn, I can go down the list. You're all amazing. You're wonderful, and I appreciate all the time that you put into this, all this effort, and again, thank you very much.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your hard work. And now that you're not under sunshine, you can meet at however you want, and hopefully you'll come up with some more ideas. And just like any other group in the community, we hope you will continue the dialogue. The document that we filed a couple weeks ago is not the document from you all. It's just the midway point or a waypoint in the discussions. And so we don't take that as the final report. We look to you all and the rest of the community to come back to us with ideas, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of Tampa City Council, I want to thank every one of you, including Ms. Williams, my appointee. Thank you so much for volunteering to join. I maybe been pushed into volunteering. I don't know which one it is, but we very much appreciate it. I think you all know that this City Council stands with you all and stands with the work that you all did. I want to thank Councilman Vieira. Councilman Vieira is a champion. He's a champion for civil rights. He's a champion for equality, and he has definitely been pushing this agenda in council. And I'm sure whatever he does next, he'll be a great voice in every level of government that he serves in. But thank you so much for everything that you've done. We're very much appreciative of it. This is Public Service 101. I hope that you continue. For those of you, this may have been your first time in public service. I hope you continue. There's many boards. There's obviously elected positions. Please continue your quest to make Tampa a inclusive and the great city that it is. Now, I'd invite you all back behind me so we can take a group photograph. So, including the little one if he wants to join us. He can sit in my seat if he wants to. Come on up. Stand up here? I'll hold this for a second.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, here. We'll stand sideways so you all can put yours forward. Okay. Right here. There we go. Maybe. 1, 2, 3.
For about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Here's your water, sir. You're very welcome.
Thanks, Board. We saw some people that came in during our agenda review. Oh. We'll wait for everybody to clear.
Oh, you heard?
Okay. So if you came in late during our agenda review, we continued item 13 to December 11th. So if you were here for item 13, it's been continued to December 11th.
And it will be renoticed.
Thank you. Okay, very good. So we are on to item number 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we need to do that too, don't we? We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda to open both 501 public hearings. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Council. McLean Evans, Assistant City Attorney. Item number 2 is the first of 2 scheduled public hearings for a proposed brownfield area designation of a property consisting of 3 contiguous parcels generally located in the vicinity of 1002 North Howard Avenue, 2315, and 2331 West Cypress Street. The City of Tampa is requesting a designation of these properties as brownfield area to assist with the assessment and remediation of environmental impacts that may exist on those properties. Details of the designation have been outlined in a document entitled Staff Report Cypress Housing Project Proposed Brownfield Area Designation, which is available both in the City Clerk's office and associated with this agenda item in On Base. At the conclusion of the second public hearing, scheduled for November 6th at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, Council will have an opportunity to pass a resolution designating Cypress Housing Project Brownfield Area. Staff is available by panelist line, and I'm here also if you have any questions.
Does Council have any questions? Okay. Very good. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to item 2? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close? We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
You want to announce when the next one is and where? Do we have to do that? Or is it just noticed legally sufficiently without council announcing it? Or should we
These have
announce
been
it?
properly noticed. Thank you for asking. The next meeting is, the next public hearing is scheduled for, as I stated previously, November 6th at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter here in Council Chambers 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida 33602. However, it has been properly noticed as the statute requires in a public or a newspaper of general circulation and an ethic newspaper, and then announced here before City Council.
Very good. Okay. And that's all we need for that one, correct? Yep. Okay. Moving on to item number 3.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Council. McLean Evans, Assistant City Attorney. Item number 3 is the first of 2 scheduled public hearings for proposed brownfield area designation of a property that's generally located at 4801 and 4803 East Hillsborough Avenue and 4710 Shadowlawn Avenue. The City of Tampa is requesting designation of these properties as a brownfield area to assist with the assessment and remediation of environmental impacts that may exist on those properties. Details of the designation have been outlined in a document entitled Staff Report East Hillsborough Ave and Shadowlawn Avenue Brownfield Area Designation, which is available for public review in the City Clerk's office and associated with this item in On Base. At the conclusion of the second public hearing, scheduled for November 6th at 10:30 a.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, Council will have an opportunity to pass a resolution designating East Hillsborough Avenue and Shadowlawn Avenue Brownfield Area. Staff and I are available if you have any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Address looks familiar. Is this our Fleet and Supply?
Pardon?
Is this our Fleet and Supply?
I believe so.
Okay.
Victor Grousseau is staff on the panelist line. Is he available? Could you confirm, Victor, that this is the property that's been discussed before council as one of the fleet options?
Oh, you are muted.
He's still muted.
Yeah, Victor.
I'm 95, Victor, just nod your head. Yes? I'm 95% sure.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
We can read signs.
Thank you so much. It's, I appreciate that we are moving with this. And I know that, that TFR will appreciate this. I'm doing a ride along tomorrow. I'll tell them.
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to item 3? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close? We have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Okay, very good. We are.
Did you want to?
Well, she did read it. She read it in the.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're going to go per our agenda review to item number 6. What's that? We already did. Oh,
Swear in.
Oh, well, 6 is, oh, sorry, 6 is quasi judicial. That's right. If you're here to speak to any of the items this evening, can you stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our clerk? I've got your hand right up here in the round.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Thank you so much. Item number 6.
Good evening, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Item number 6 is REZ 2530, request to rezone 2741 and 2747 West Green Street from commercial general to planned development for residential, single-family detached and attached uses. First, I wanted to provide a brief background on this. This application was scheduled to be heard before City Council on July 24th, 2025. The applicant requested a continuance to work on the design and layout of the site to address staff concerns. The applicant has eliminated a unit from the site plan on the north side, proposes 5 units instead of 6, added front porches, increased the west side yard setback, added 2 visitor parking spaces, eliminating the need for the parking waiver, and eliminated a waiver for front door orientation. First, we'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the parcels outlined in red here, and this is West Green Street, and it's on the northwest side of West Green and North Havana. The area surrounding the subject site contains mostly single-family detached and semi-detached uses. The area to the north of the subject site is comprised of commercial general uses up in this area. And then to the south of the site is 275. So you have your single family over here, and then the commercial up and through here. Here's the site plan provided by the applicant. The applicant proposes the construction of 2 structures, one containing 4 single-family attached dwellings on the south side, that's here, and 1 single-family detached dwelling on the north side here. Access to the site is proposed off of North Havana from the 12-foot alley, improved alley. Unit 1 to the north has entry oriented towards North Havana Avenue, and that's here. Units 2 through 5 to the south have entry oriented towards West Green Street, and that's here. They all have the pedestrian access, and each unit is proposed to be 35 feet in height or 3 stories with a 2-car garage. The development includes an existing billboard on site, which is shown outlined here. The billboard will remain on site as there is an agreement with Clear Channel, which leases the property to erect and maintain the billboard. This agreement expires June 30th, 2026, according to documents provided by the applicant. Here are the proposed site elevations provided by the applicant. This is the north elevation for the 4 units, the west. This is going to be the south and the east. And then this is for the single family detached, the south, west, north, and west elevation. Next, I'll show some photos of the site and the surrounding area. This is a picture of the site. That includes the billboard. This is another photo of the site. This is another photo of the site, just looking from the perspective where the billboard is. This is the site at the corner of Havana and Green. This is looking east down Green. 275 is on the other side. This is looking west down Green at the corner of Havana and Green again. This is looking south towards Green. This is north of the site. This is west across Havana. Looking south. And then this is a photo of the alley of the site. Just to kind of show you, the applicant did eliminate the unit over here, added the visitor parking spaces, increased this setback here, and eliminated those waivers by doing that and making the units where they're pedestrian friendly. Development coordination and compliance staff reviewed the application and find the request to be inconsistent with land development code. There is one waiver as part of this request. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the issues of staff's finding of inconsistency. Due to the scale and massing, the applicant's proposal is not in harmony with the surrounding development pattern. The block between North Havana and North Tampania contains primarily residential single-family detached single-story units with a few single-story semi-detached units and commercial buildings. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. CTTV, can you make it so that I can see Councilman Carlson on our screens up here, please? Because I can't tell if he's trying to get my attention or not. The screens that council sees. Does council have any questions? Councilman Carlson, do you have any questions? Thank you. Okay.
I'll turn it over to Planning Commission.
Good evening, Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. This site's in the Central Tampa Planning District. Specifically, it's in the West Tampa Urban Village. It's in Evacuation Zone E. And the subject site is currently designated CMU 35, which is to the north of the subject site along Havana. And then it interfaces R20 to the west. It's just north of the interstate. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the surrounding area and finds the request both comparable and compatible with the existing development in the area. The neighborhood is characterized by a mix of primarily single-family detached homes with some single-family attached and commercial uses in the vicinity. The proposed townhomes will provide a transition between the Interstate 275, which is to the south of the site, and lower density residential uses, which are to the north. The request will provide infill development on a site that is presently underutilized while supporting many of the policies in the comp plan as it relates to housing the city's population. Additionally, the comprehensive plan directs the greatest share of growth to the city's urban villages. This request will provide additional housing within the West Tampa urban village. Planning Commission staff has also finds the request consistent with policies related to development and mixed-use corridors. Unit 1 is oriented towards North Havana Avenue, while Units 2 and 5 are oriented towards West Green Street. Each unit includes a pedestrian connection from the front entrance to the sidewalk, promoting walkability. Additionally, vehicular access provided from an adjacent alley, which is also supported by the comp plan. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Could we get CCTV to pull up the presentation, please? There we go.
What's up?
Thank you. Okay, council, good to see you again. Jake Kramer with Barbas Kramer. Had to write my new address down, 2002 West Cleveland. Good to see y'all. I'm here tonight with Mr. Vic DeMaio, our consultant, along with Mr. Steve Barbas, who many of you all know from his time at the city, and our AICP planner, Cynthia Spidell. This is a case where the continuance really helped. I think ultimately we ended up with a much better site plan, as you heard from staff, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Really, this case just comes down to one thing. There was just one issue that we couldn't get over that hurdle with staff. Really, the only question is a 3-story townhome appropriate when you're in the West Tampa overlay and you are smack dab between West Main Street and the interstate? You know, this property fronts the interstate. That's the only question here before you tonight. So we'll walk you through the planning side of everything. Mr. DeMaio helped us out with community engagement, so I'd like him to come up briefly.
Thank you, Council. Victor DeMaio, 1205 North Franklin Street. Yeah, I helped with the, I met with the neighbors, McFarland Park Neighborhood Association, and to be honest with you, I grew up in this neighborhood because I used to ride my bike from my house to friends like the Macedo family who lived on Main Street just behind this place. And I know the one objection is, that, yes, there are single-family homes. Right behind this little area on Main Street, there's a house there with, I think, 8 apartments in one house that was been grandfathered in, as we say, in West Tampa, where people enclosed the garage and made 3 apartments out of that and made the whole upstairs into 3 more apartments. So it's kind of disingenuous to say that this is a single-family neighborhood because there's a lot of little commercial going on in there up and down Havana. And the development itself, if you want to call it that, faces a 60-foot wall, which is called the interstate, and people come in front of there going 90 miles an hour trying to get on the interstate. So it's not exactly a user-friendly neighborhood as you would imagine it to be. So the fact that the Barbases are taking a chance to build something nice there, and the bottom line is all the neighbors love the plan, love the idea, love the fact of improving the what's there now, because the only thing holding it back, the only thing holding the house together that's there now, the old houses are the termites holding hands. So it'll be a vast improvement to what's there now. So we appreciate your consideration on this project. We're here for questioning.
Thank you.
Good evening, Cynthia Spidell with Barbas Kramer, 2002 West Cleveland Street, and I have been sworn. Can we switch back to the presentation? And okay. Okay. So it's just under a quarter of an acre, and as staff pointed out, it's immediately adjacent to I-275. It's just south of West Main Street. It's a corner of West Green Street and North Havana Avenue. It is in the West Tampa overlay and within the West Tampa National Historic District, and we'll get into that a little bit more down the road. So the request is for 5 units. Based on the feedback we got from staff, you can see that there's 1 single-family detached unit. This has a pointer, right? Oh, shoot. Did I just turn off? Okay, I pressed the wrong button. I don't know how to do it, but it's the unit 1 is a single-family detached unit, and then the 4 townhouses that are attached are the ones facing Green Street. So there's 1 waiver, and that waiver is to the alley, and it's to reduce that VUA there so that basically we can really maximize the alley. When we met with the neighbors, their concern was access, traffic, and parking, and this really helps, approval of this waiver would really help us facilitate that concern by maximizing the alley access. And the neighbors were also very excited to hear that the applicant would be willing to improve the alley then up to the extent of the property. So between what was submitted and what is before you now, as staff highlighted, we reduced from 6 to 5. That is, 6 is the maximum amount you could get under the CMU 35 using the 30 dwelling units per acre. We increased the 2 parking spots. We increased the size of that single-family detached unit, that unit 1, and we reduced the waivers from 3 to 1 and added the porches. So here are just some sites that, some site photos that really just sort of highlight the issue at hand and the reality of being confronted with the immediate adjacency to I-275 and the billboard. So as you heard from Planning Commission staff, we have a consistency determination with the comprehensive plan. If you look at the CMU 35 and which kind of corresponds to the zoning district as CG, it looks like someone had envisioned sort of a commercial corridor. When you're on the ground, you don't really get that kind of a feel anymore. It's very predominantly residential. But we do have commercial by right. So I think that that's a very important item to notice, that they could just come in and redevelop the site for commercial, but by keeping it residential and by allowing them to redevelop it as a residential in a residential capacity, that does stay in tune with the National Historic designation as well. So we got mostly everything was consistent. The 3 little minor site plan issues we can fix easily between first and second reading, and what it really comes down to is this: what does it mean to be in this historic district? And it comes down to section 271365. It's in the staff report where staff goes into the fact that even if we did the cleanup items, it's not going to change the line of inconsistency. And I was a little surprised when I read that there are no local protections for contributing structures in the National Historic Districts. And that's the reason why basically what comes before you boils down to this issue. What is a contributing structure, and what does that mean? So we would argue that you do have a local protection in place, and that is your West Tampa overlay. And if you look at the definition of the West Tampa overlay and the purpose and the intent of the West Tampa overlay, it is literally to protect these houses and this design in this area in the manner that was designated. So the precedent development pattern, it's seeking to maintain that. So we went in and we dug up the actual National Historic nomination and designation. And what it talks about is it does talk a lot about the cigar area, but specific to this site, it's talking about the vernacular bungalow-style homes, the row houses, the townhouses, and its significance in the Latin community. So this is this is in your staff report as well. This is the definition of the contributing structure. It doesn't really include the bodega, but the site has both a contributing and a non-contributing structure. So technically, even though it was defined as a contributing structure back when the nomination occurred, the integrity of its contributing status has been significantly altered and compromised by the billboard and the fact that it is sandwiched now by the I-275 proximity. Staff report says there's no applicable design standards. We say there are design standards. We have to comply with the West Tampa overlay. So the district's intent is not to preclude people from redeveloping. It's just like, if you redevelop, this is how you shall do it. So we went back in and we really read through the national designation, and it talks about the wood frame vernacular, the row houses, the bungalows, the balustrades, and this house does have a lot of those components. If you look at how the porch is set up and the balustrades there and the columns. So I think that is something that we can easily address through an architectural facade to maintain that integrity. So I kind of did a little, we're showing you here the different sort of facades that can be incorporated into an architectural rendering specific to the site that incorporates, the columns, the balustrades, and even the siding. So the one top picture up there on the right, that has the siding as well. So that's an element that could be incorporated. These are the 3 architectural facades that we brought to the community meeting. And we'll get back, I'll get into that as well. So the feedback we got at the community meeting was not, oh, it's residential, or oh, it's a townhouse, or oh, it's too high. It was traffic and parking. Those were the 2 issues that the community, at least the people that attended the meeting, were concerned with. So we really talked about the alley access. We talked about the 2 parking spaces. They loved the fact that we were not accessing it off a green, that would be preserved. You could see in one of the pictures there was actually some cars parked on the sidewalk. So that would obviously go away as we shift the access off the access off the alley. So we did have about 10 to 15 attendees. And like I said, we talked mostly about traffic and alley access, and we passed around all the architectural standards, and there were no concerns raised about mass and scale. So in conclusion, we have commercial zoning by right. The proposed PD is for residential use, is actually more in line with staff's concerns than the by right commercial, because we can address some of these architectural components through the architectural renderings. The consistency with the historical designation, that's in conformance with the West Tampa overlay. It is immediately adjacent to I-275. It's already an impacted area. By allowing 5 units on the site, you would increase your housing supply while serving to buffer existing residential uses, because the height will actually serve to help protect those that live behind it. The historical status, the billboard has degraded the status of the contributing structure. There's no doubt about that. The staff report says no local protections. We disagree. We do think you have protections in place. That's a West Tampa overlay. And the community outreach, the McFarland Neighborhood Association, everybody was real excited to see that the area would be redeveloped and that these access and parking issues could be addressed through the site design. And we can stay true to the intent of the historical designation through architectural facades. And with that, I will hand it back over to
Jay Kramer again. Just one final comment, as Cynthia mentioned. This is an unusual case, right? We're not saying that this could or should happen anywhere in the West Tampa overlay. All we're suggesting is that there are some cases where we as a community, we haven't always done a good job of protecting our historic resources. And obviously the interstate came through, but then the city permitted this billboard, right? There's a city settlement dealing with those billboards and allowing them to still exist here. And all we're suggesting is that there are circumstances where allowing the private redevelopment, the private investment to come into the community, that's the right thing to do. And I think that this is one of those cases where we've worked really hard with staff to make sure that's the case. So we're here if you have any questions, and I really appreciate you moving us early to the agenda so I can run as fast as I can down to the county after this. Thanks.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I've been listening to everything, and I struggle with this because when we talk about historic preservation and local protections or the lack thereof, you have what appears to be an abandoned commercial structure, the bodega. Then you have a beautiful house that's historical. Then next to that, I think I saw jalousie windows. So you have stuff from the mid-20th century, early 20th century. And we talk about historic preservation, but then you're facing the interstate that butchered West Tampa and butchered Ybor City and butchered Tampa Heights, and that we're still feeling the effects of it today. I don't know if there's anybody from the public here about this. I don't remember seeing any emails for or against it, which is surprising because McFarland Park is a very active group, and they would be first to come out here if they were to oppose something like this. It's a shame to demolish these structures. It really is, because we do a terrible job at historic preservation, not just in Tampa, in this country in general. And that's another discussion for another day. A question that I have in regards to the billboard, I heard an agreement until 2026. What does that mean? That billboard will come down, or that stays in place if this were to be approved while the new construction goes in?
Sure. So it's a good question. If you've ever dealt with the billboard company, it's a little bit like dealing with CSX. They get to make the terms and sort of do what they want. They have the ability to negotiate an extension of that lease with us if they want. They may decide to do that. They may decide there's a settlement agreement between the billboard company and the city. They would have the right, with certain parameters, to move the billboard if they wanted. They could potentially rebuild the billboard. I mean, that's frankly our hope. I mean, you saw it. It's really an eyesore. And, I will probably be the one helping to renegotiate that, and I hope we can get that done. But, ultimately, there's a long way of saying we don't know what they are going to decide to do. And we're going to have to get through that before we can really finalize the construction plans for whatever moves forward.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilman Carlson, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Okay, a motion to close from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. I think I'd like to talk about it. I want to echo what Councilman, I really want to be supportive of this because I know it's a problematic street with the interstate and trying to find something but I'm having a difficult time with the overlay district, and as Councilman Maniscalco said, the another historic building and replacing it with this. It's kind of disingenuous to talk about alley access because this is more like an apartment complex with a parking lot kind of, access, not necessarily the type of access that I think we're looking for as we're developing. In other words, if you develop this entire parcel and had garages in the back with alley access, and that would, and then of course stoops in the front, that would kind of meet that need. The garages are a little bit undersized as well, but I don't know. And also while I appreciate the facades you showed us, that's just kind of for us. And tonight, this is a PD. That's kind of just pretty pictures, unless it's tied to the site plan and tied to the application. So it doesn't really give us much guidance of actually what the quality of the construction that you're bringing, or what you're, what part of how you're going to contribute to the fabric of West Tampa with that construction. If it was submitted with the application and we could tie you to it, then I think I'd be more happier with the application, saying, okay, you're going to bring us this proposal with these architectural features that will contribute and enhance the overlay district. Yes, Mr. Kramer. We closed. I'm sorry. We'd have to, if you. So moved. We have a motion from Councilman Hurtek to open, a second from Councilman Vera. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Yes, Mr. Kramer.
Councilman Clinton, and we would be, the three designs, those are the ones we showed to the community. I'm sure we could work with staff between first and second reading to incorporate those into a condition.
Okay, thank you. That gives me a little bit more comfort. I appreciate that.
Motion to close.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Vera, second from Councilwoman Hurtek. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
I'll give my
Councilman
thoughts
Vera.
if I may. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, the greater good lies with supporting this. It increases housing in the area, and especially it's going to improve an area. And we have to be careful in terms of the input on legal issues from neighborhood associations and so forth when there are larger issues. I don't see that necessarily here, but it is very relevant that this neighborhood association is very, very vocal, and I see nobody from here there. And I know that the applicant retained Al Pacino to help them out on neighborhood engagement. I always call Victor Mayo that. Sorry, I think they look alike, but whatever. But that is a relevant consideration, which is that I think the neighborhood sees it as I sees it, which is the greater good on this, in spite of any gray that may have been mentioned previously. But that's it.
I'd like to hear a motion from this council issuing an official apology to Al Pacino. Councilman Miranda.
Let me just say, and I understand what Mr. Maniscalco said, and Mr. Vieira and so forth. And this is one that's, no matter how you look at it, it's 50-50. But I can tell you one thing, I've had at least two neighbors in that neighborhood, same 2700 block, I think it was, or 25, I forget which, is right off Armenia, because when you're heading from east to west, and you pass that light, you see the ramp to the interstate. And let me tell you something, they're not going 25 miles an hour. They're going 35 to 45 miles an hour to get, because you feel that you're going up the ramp and somebody, you behind that person, he takes off or you take off going straight. And I've had mobility to look into it, and the report came back, and they haven't quite told me no, but I can tell by the sound of the voice, it doesn't sound too prosper to put the small speed bump or something to help the neighborhood out. That has nothing to do with the zoning, but I'm bringing it up just in case somebody understands that they buy a house and say, oh, nobody told me there's speeding here. Well, we're trying to fix a problem that's there, and I don't know if we can fix it or not.
Okay. And I want to be clear, it's not about the mass. I'm okay with the mass and scale of the project. I don't have any problem with that. It's just a little bit of just, you're taking out a contributing structure, replacing it with something that's more, in line with the features of what we're striving for in that overlay district. Something that would be more, significant for the area. So that would be my biggest concern. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Then Councilman Vieira, would you like to read this one?
Yes, sir.
Item number 6.
Move an ordinance presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity, 2741, 2747 West Green Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1, from zoning district classification CG, commercial general, to PD, plan development, residential, single family, detached and attached, providing an effective date. Mr. Shelby.
And does that include the revision sheet and the changes that have been agreed between first and second reading?
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Vera, a second from?
Second.
Okay, second from Councilwoman Hurtek. Roll call, please.
Vieira.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Miranda. Yes. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtek.
Yes.
Clendenin.
With the good faith that you'll bring that forth in the second reading, yes. Thank you.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving forward by moving backwards. Item number 4.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot about that. I'm gonna hand
I'll just leave it there.
So you're going to present 4 and 5 together. We'll take separate votes.
Ross Amos, Development Coordination, presenting file number VAC 25-14. The applicant is Corporation Developed Communities of Tampa Incorporated. Representative's name is Catherine Coyle. Property address is 3615 North 29th Street. This is a proposed vacating request to vacate a portion of the alleyway lying north of 29th Avenue, south of Lake Avenue, east of 29th Street, and west of 30th Street. This application was filed 6/18/2025. The right-of-way is currently unimproved. Existing right-of-way is approximately 1,209 square feet. The reason of the request is development of approximately 28 affordable housing units. Here's an aerial view showing the proposed vacating in yellow and properties in red. Again, this is a T-shaped alley, and it is the northern portion of that T-shaped alley here, and the north-south section here is only the north section. Can't really see that, but showing where the alley was dedicated per plat, and in red is the portion being
Could
vacated.
you zoom in on that?
Yes.
Yes, all I see is black.
Block 18 here.
Got it.
Here's an image looking north from 29th Avenue. Image looking south from East Lake Avenue. And again, this is the portion requested to be vacated, approximately midsection here to Lake Avenue. Staff objects to this vacating request, more specifically urban design. Easement reservation is required by wastewater. Special conditions, natural resources comply with Chapter 27 as regard to tree preservation and site design for any improvements placed adjacent to trees in a vacated area. That concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
You know, I have a question for you, council. I know we said we're going to hear these together, but this might be really, is it going to be complicated for you to hear these together as well? I mean, I think we should just deal with them separately. What do you think?
A better record.
Yeah, I think, okay.
Yeah, I tend
Different
to agree.
criteria, one is non-quasi
Yeah, exactly.
judicial.
I'm not,
Legislative.
after hearing this and after seeing it, I think I'm more comfortable hearing these separately. So we're just gonna, item number 4 only at this point. Is with unanimous consent, hearing no objection? Okay, thank you. So we're good, okay. Oh, I'll get it after. Okay. Thank you very much. Start with your name, please.
Good evening, council. Catherine Coyle, Boggs Engineering, 601 South Alexander Street, Plant City. I'm here representing the CDC of Tampa, and with me tonight I have Ernest Coney Jr., who's the CEO, Vanessa McCleary, who's the Vice President, and I don't know where he went. Oh, hi. This is
Lurking in
Malik.
plain sight.
Yes, this is Malik Jordan with WODA Companies. They are their development partner. Focusing on the vacating itself, I think the easiest thing to do would be to show you the site. You have these site plans before you. It's sheet 6.0 on the bottom right corner, if you flip through the 11 by 17s that I gave you. This particular block, for perspective, this is North 29th. When we go through the rezoning, it's A, B, C, D. D is where the vacating is.
Okay.
The CDC happens to own this front block with the alley here. It is a T alley that goes to the railroad tracks. And I think that's something important to mention is that the site is bounded, not the site, but the block itself is bounded by the CSX railroad tracks here along 30th. And there is no connectivity across in this location by the street or by the alley. There were no objections from any of the utilities because there is a sewer line that comes through. However, it comes through here and you can see the line I put in. It stubs out here and here. And in my conversations with Jeff Hilton from the wastewater department, I asked him specifically, do you have any intention to expand it? And he said, no, there's no extensions planned because there's sewer everywhere else. All of them on this side of the railroad track for some reason come under the railroad track from the other side and they stop. We're only asking to vacate this portion of it. And specifically because all of the underground stormwater is here and here. And in order to connect through with a private pipe, it has to be vacated. It can't be public right of way. We're leaving the alley open here and here, and we're not curbing this piece so that their trucks can come in our driveway and cut through the alley if they need to service anything in the wastewater, on the wastewater line. The alley is unimproved. There are trees in there. If you go down the line, you can actually see fences and other things that people have put in. A lot of these blocks are like that, actually. They're not improved. So we are leaving the access open, and it is just this piece purely because of the underground stormwater connection. We respectfully request your approval on that. The objection from urban design, I certainly understand why they objected. However, the code itself, it says in all cases, efforts shall be made to provide vehicle access from a contiguous improved public alley. This isn't improved, and we did make every effort that we could, and it is incorporated within the parking lot. So in effect, it will function still as a pass-through from north to south, just as it does today through dirt. I can continue that, telling you about that, but I think I'd turn it over to the zoning folks to do that. But otherwise, we respectfully request your approval for this.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
And so I do have a question for staff, because I kind of see it the way that Ms. Coyle does, that it still will connect. I mean, there's still going to be a road, it's just a little to the right. So.
Los Angeles Development Nation, yes, there's no dead end. This vacating doesn't create a dead end as far as connection.
Yes, so then so you're just saying because it's not in that straight line, that's the reason that you found.
I'm sorry, you're asking more about the urban designs?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Waldo Carbos with staff is here to speak on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waldo Carbo, Urban Design. Basically, the East Tampa overlay doesn't require the use of alleys, but the code explicitly references alleys as the primary access point on properties that are adjacent to public alleys, and that was the basis of our objection.
And again, my question is, by looking at this site plan, people would be accessing this development.
Alley-esque. Yeah.
So that's what I just don't understand. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter one way or the other, but it seems like they're still continuing a street through here that would provide the access.
That's understandable, but a literal reading of the code is what we...
Yeah,
understand. Thank you.
It does seem alley-esque, or alley-like, what they're trying to provide. So yeah, backside with the front-facing project, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Councilman Carlson, any questions? Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing nothing else, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? This is item 4 on the vacating of the alley. Hearing none, we have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Hurtak.
File number VAC 25-14, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Actually, before I say that, I generally do not support alley closures, but to me, this is not an alley closure because there will still be continuance of drive space, and it leads to a parking lot, and I love that. So file number VAC 25-14, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance in the city of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning that alleyway located north of 29th Avenue, south of Lake Avenue, east of 29th Street, and west of 30th Street within the plat map of Campobello, a subdivision in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more fully described in Section 2 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote, please.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Vieira? Carlson?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Maniscalco? Clendenin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
So if you're following along, we have now transitioned to quasi-judicial proceedings. Anybody that's going to speak to the rest of these items tonight, if you have not been sworn in, can you raise your hand? Okay, if you could stand, raise your right hand and be sworn in by the clerk, please. And we have an online speaker as well. He's the applicant, right? No? Okay. Okay, very good.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Okay, item number 5.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 5 is REZ 2593. Request to rezone 3801, 3803, 3807, 3809, 3811, 3813, 3813 and a half, 3815, 3817, 3819, 3729, 3723, I think we said that one already. 3719, 3615, 3603, and 3601 North 29th Street, and 2803 East 32nd Avenue, from RM16, CG, and PD to PD for residential, multifamily, and storefront residential, commercial office, all CG uses, except bar, lounge, place of assembly, and restaurant for greater than 10 seats. I have a revised revision sheet and the elevation sheet to submit for the record. I'd like to start with an explanation of the site since this is a large site. The overall project area is bounded by Lindale Avenue here to the north, East 29th Avenue to the south, and North 29th Street to the west, and North 30th Street to the east. The rezoning consists of 4 separate parcels labeled A through D, which you can see here. Next, we have the aerial view of the parcels. You can see in the surrounding area, you can see that all 4 parcels are outlined in red here. They're a little difficult to see. The sites are surrounded by commercial general, planned development, and residential multifamily RM16, RM18 zoning. Parcels A, B, and C are vacant, and parcel D contains vacant and a commercial open air structure. The applicant proposes a mixture of residential and commercial uses within the overall project area. So you can see there's a large mix of residential and commercial. The commercial is mostly right here along 29th, and then as you move up along Martin Luther King, and then there's a lot of residential, even some RS 50 through here. I'm gonna show each site plan separately. These are the site plans provided by the applicant. Parcel A will contain 20 residential multifamily units with all units developed as affordable housing. A 4-story building proposed with a principal covered entryway located on the west and pedestrian access to the proposed 6-foot sidewalk along North 29th Street. There are proposed sidewalks connecting to both Lindell Avenue to the north and East 32nd Avenue to the south. Proposed vehicular ingress is from Lindell Avenue and egress via one-way travel onto East 32nd. So you can see the building outlined here with the access here and the parking there, and then the sidewalks and pedestrian access. Next, we'll move to Parcel B. Parcel B will contain a 4-story building with storefront residential, 18 affordable multifamily residential units, as well as 1,600 square foot of non-residential uses on the ground floor. And that area is shown in this hatched area there within the building. The principal covered entryway located on the east side has pedestrian access to the proposed 6-foot sidewalk along North 29th Street. There are proposed sidewalks surrounding the site for pedestrian access along all roadways. Proposed vehicular ingress is only from North 28th Street to the west, and egress only one way, so in here, and one way out onto East 31st Street to the south. And as you can see, the sidewalk here goes around the preserved oak tree there. Next, I'll put up Parcel C. Parcel C will contain 1 3-story building with 9 affordable multifamily residential units. The main frontage with covered entryway is on the west side of the building with pedestrian access from the proposed 6-foot sidewalk along North 29th Street. The applicant also proposes a 6-foot sidewalk along East 32nd Avenue that connects to the 11-foot alley located to the west. So we have the ingress here, the egress here, that multifamily unit here, the pedestrian access around, and there's that. And then we have Parcel D. Parcel D will contain 1 4-story building with storefront residential uses, 28 affordable housing units, and 3,000 square foot of commercial uses. Again, this is the residential building here, and you have in the hatched area the commercial uses. The frontage is on North 29th Street here, with the vehicular access for 2-way traffic on the north along East Lake Avenue and the south on East 29th Avenue. So you can see that they have the 2-way access there. 6-foot sidewalks are proposed surrounding the site. The subject site is in the East Tampa overlay and shall comply with section 27240 East Tampa overlay design standards at the time of permitting, unless standards are waived through this PD rezoning process. The subject site has 2 future land uses, R20 and CMU 35. The R20 future land use designation allows for development of up to 18 dwelling units per acre by right and 20 units per acre with bonus provisions. The CMU 35 future land use designation allows for development up to 30 dwelling units per acre or 1.0 FAR with standard development by right, or up to 35 dwelling units per acre or 2.0 FAR with bonus provisions met. And now I'll show you the proposed elevations submitted by the applicant, and those were also handed to you. This is for, let's see, this one is Building A. This is the east elevation, the north elevation, the south elevation, and then there's the west elevation. And since some of them are so similar, unless you would like me to show all the elevations, I can just show you another example.
Can you
if you'd
clarify
like.
that Building A, the east elevation faces 29th Street?
The back of the building for the east elevation,
Where's 29th Street?
Should be west, the front, the bottom.
the back here on west,
Okay.
yes.
West, okay.
Right here with the pedestrian access entering right here.
So not per unit, okay.
Yes, sir. And then this is building B. And this would be the west elevation, which would be the back, the south, the north, and then this is the front of the east elevation, which has the entryway there. The one that is just a little bit different would be C, which has the 9 units. Next, I'll show some photos of the site. And I kind of go through these just like I did everything else, A, B, C, and D. So this is parcel A, 30 seconds, with the parcel A looking north towards Lindell. This is parcel A looking north down 29th. Parcel A is on the right. This is northwest of parcel A near 32nd and 29th. And then we're moving to parcel B, looking at parcel B from 29th. And then looking west down 32nd from 29th. Again, this is parcel B, looking at parcel B east on the west side. This is parcel C on 32nd, looking south at parcel C. This is just an interior view of parcel C. This is looking down 32nd with parcel C to your right. This is parcel D, and this is looking towards lake. This is parcel D, looking south. This is D, again looking south across 29th Avenue. This is D looking north from parcel D across Lake Avenue. This is looking east down 29th Avenue. And then this is looking west from parcel D across 29th. Development Coordination and Compliance staff reviewed the application and find the request to be inconsistent with the Land Development Code. There are 9 waivers as part of this request. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revised revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the issues of transportation's inconsistent finding. Staff had concerns because 29th Street was to be treated as the front. The front is usually the shortest side. It was determined by the zoning administrator that 29th Street can be treated as the front. The applicant was asked to provide pedestrian connectivity. The applicant has agreed to provide walk-up units. Should the applicant make these changes, this would change the findings of urban design, development coordination, and solid waste to consistent. I'm available for any questions, and urban design staff Waldo Carbo is available to answer any questions you may have regarding the overlay. And I believe Aaron is coming up with natural resources.
Councilwoman Hurtak, questions?
I'll wait until
So-
all of staff.
I want to be clear, because I was actually shocked when I saw the site plan, because I was, without having that pedestrian access to 29th, I'm going like, no way, Jose. So that has been agreed to. We'll see that
Yes.
modification between first and second reading. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I will reopen my mind. Very good, thank you.
Okay, Aaron Mayer, Development Coordination. I know you're typically seeing me when Natural Resources doesn't support the project, but we actually do support this project, and I'm just gonna go over, why that is. So above you, you're pretty familiar with these by now, but I'm gonna point out here in the green circle, this is a grand live oak preservation quality, and we requested the applicant preserve that tree. It's just right inside the property line, and they have agreed. I'm gonna show you here This is just an image of this 57-inch DBH live oak rated C8. It's got a pretty large canopy. They provide an ISA pruning report showing that, you know, the placement of the building and won't be adverse to preservation of this tree. And then there are a couple hazardous live oaks that are being removed. They don't require waivers. And here is a 30-inch live oak, which the only encroachments there are alternate paving materials. So we were supportive of that. And then, let's see, I'm just gonna quickly show you, these are the landscape plans, probably hard to see. But the point of them really is just showing that A and C are multifamily, B and D are storefront residential, and they meet the green space requirement on all the sites except for parcel A. So parcel A, they're providing 6,417 square feet of green space. The project, or that parcel, requires 8,376, so they are required a waiver to reduce the 350 square feet per unit to 252. We are supporting that waiver, however, given all the other sites are meeting green space. Overall, if you took a composite green space, they meet that, or they exceed that actually. And then they are required to plant certain amount of trees, but they're showing additional trees on each parcel as well. And they've committed to putting type 1 shade trees in as many locations as they possibly can. But there are a lot of overhead wires. So, but the applicant really worked with us, and anything we pretty much requested, they did. So,
Will they provide a landscape plan between first and second reading?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they're gonna update this landscape plan
okay.
between first and second reading.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So I did have a question for you about, with the overhead wires, where we can't put type 1 trees, are we at least trying to get native trees?
Not necessarily. We are trying to get trees that, a lot of times when it's a type 3 tree, they're typically putting in a crepe myrtle, because that's like
Yeah,
the most
and that's what I'm talking
available
about.
in the nursery.
If I
know.
wanted to be specific, no crepe myrtles, no palm trees.
Okay.
Yeah, how do we get that? We're gonna have to talk offline
We
about
could
how to
condition
get
it,
the
I'm sure.
crepe myrtles
Yeah.
out of our vocabulary.
Yeah, right now, we put type 3, type 2, type 1, and that's something, you know, they ultimately will show at the time of permitting. But I try to spec live oak if I can on a site.
Yes, and obviously we can't do that for lines, power lines, but that's why I'm saying, like, if we were to put a condition in that we don't use palms and crepe myrtles, you would support that?
There are a lot of palms as well being placed on this site, but they're not counting towards the trees that are really the required trees.
That's what I'm talking about, like the
Yeah.
required trees. Obviously, if you put a palm, but the palm does nothing. It
Right,
just, it's,
right.
and honestly,
Rats
they're,
and squirrels.
well, but they're, I have one palm in my yard. It is a pain to keep clean. 'Cause
They are good for bats, I will
Okay,
say.
okay, well
Bats
then.
live in their skirts.
Okay,
So leave the
okay.
skirt.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, very good. Yes, sir. We love our bats.
Danny Collins, with your planning commission staff, I was sworn in. This site, or these sites, are within the Central Tampa Planning District and within the East Tampa Urban Village, or in Evacuation Zone E. Stephanie mentioned, majority of the sites along North 29th Street are designated as CMU 35. We do have two parcels just along East 29th Street and East Lake Street that are residential 20. The Planning Commission staff has reviewed the request and found it generally consistent with the policies that supported fill development on vacant unutilized sites. It is also aligns with the plan's housing goals, particularly those ensuring an adequate supply of housing is available to meet population demands. Additionally, the request supports the city's growth strategy by supporting growth in the urban villages. Because the site is located within the CMU 35 designation, it is required to meet the mixed-use center corridors of the plan. The applicant has addressed several of these, such as placing parking behind the buildings and orienting primary entrances towards the public right-of-way. However, the proposed PD does not fully align with policies and prioritize pedestrian safety or encourage commercial mixed-use development that contributes to Tampa's character and ambience. One particular concern is the placement of dumpsters adjacent to the public sidewalks, specifically on parcels A, B, and C. This configuration undermines pedestrian-oriented design and presents long-term safety concerns for pedestrians, as garbage collection trucks would need to back over sidewalks, conflicting with a number of policies that promote pedestrian safety. The dumpster, particularly on parcel B, is especially problematic as it directly faces single-family homes, raising potential compatibility issues within the neighborhood. While the proposed PD would provide affordable housing and infill development within a mixed-use center and corridor, it does not adequately address pedestrian safety policies in the comprehensive plan. The location of the dumpsters adjacent to public sidewalks and residential uses, as well as unclear internal pedestrian circulation, are inconsistent with the plan's design principles of mixed-use centers and corridors. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request inconsistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation.
So did you have any suggestions of other locations for this dumpster? Especially on the one that's problematic adjacent to the residential facility. I mean, I'm just looking at, they don't have a lot of real estate back there to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, typically towards the rear of the, so it's right up, not right up on the sidewalk. There's one particular, I think it's parcel C, where they actually have to back in over the sidewalk and then back right over the sidewalk, like back in. They don't even get into the drive aisle, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Very good. Applicant, please. Toss a coin. Good evening.
Good
Start with your
evening.
name, please.
Vanessa McCleary, CDC of Tampa, 1907.
We don't need addresses. You're good.
Thank you. Yes, this project is phase one of a multi-pronged project to redevelop the area. If you look at a map of East Tampa, you'll find that Heritage Heights on 29th is actually the heart of the community. It was the heart of the community at one time. It was a vibrant area. This is where Chloe Coney was doing her drug marches and worked to clean it up. It has fallen into disrepair. One of the things we know is there is a strong need for affordable housing. These units will be affordable to families at 40% AMI and 60% AMI. So truly affordable units meeting the needs. We have a large homeless population in the area, and this will be an effort that will allow them to be housed. We have not only housing, but also commercial. We are talking with bringing in a small grocery store so we can bring fresh foods to the area. We have a number of seniors in the area. We wanted to make it a walkable community. So the buildings are oriented such that people can get out, conversate, and bring it back to being a community area again. So I hope that you will take that all into consideration. We are working our best to fit this project into what you can see is tight quarters.
Anybody else from the applicant?
Yes. Thank you, Council. Catherine Coyle, Boggs Engineering. I did provide a PowerPoint. I'll do it on the overhead. Just a quick overview of the site again. This is the overall project, A, B, C, and D along North 29th. In total, 75 affordable units, 1 and 2 bedroom, 4,600 square feet of the CG uses, with the exception of those 3 listed. There's no bonus requested on this project. You already highlighted the land use and zoning. You'll note from the various staff reports that we did work very diligently with them on everything that was cited. It really boils down to one issue, and it was the last one that you heard about the dumpsters. The plans that you have before you actually show many of those corrections, almost all of them. You'll note from the one that you saw earlier, we've added those walk-up units. So there is still going to be a main central corridor here. For instance, on A, there's still going to be a main central corridor that comes through, a main lobby, but then the 5 units that face 29th will have walk-up as well. This is the dumpster here on A that was mentioned. And what I want to show you, I stood on the property yesterday and stood right where the driveway will be, and this is what the dumpster and the driveway face. Just, it's commercial property, happens to be a parking lot. The issue at hand really happens to be, you'll notice there was no objection overall from solid waste. On sheet 2 of the site plan are all the specs for the solid waste trucks that we have to meet, the turning radii, everything else to get onto the site. This is the truck route for the City of Tampa truck, and it's actually sized to their truck. When it swings into this property, everything in red gets taken out. So you wind up with essentially 9 spaces on the property if you try to cut through. So what we did to mitigate that is we narrowed the driveways as much as possible, because what was talked about was pedestrian conflicts. So this truck is gonna come in, go down the street, come back up, pick up everybody else's trash, come in here. The truck itself, you can see how long it is. It'll actually be right at the dumpster, just like this, in that 16-foot wide driveway. It'll pick up the trash, back out, and it'll go. So the conflict here on the sidewalk that was mentioned is 16 feet wide. A normal driveway, a standard driveway for two-way, just to put it in perspective, two-way traffic, you can see actually on parcel D. The minimum is typically about 24 to 32 feet, which is a much wider conflict for pedestrians with multiple cars coming in and out. The way we tried to mitigate it was narrow it as much as possible, and we also took it to a one-way, so they only have to worry about cars and the truck coming in this way. They don't have to worry about people coming out. We added additional pedestrian connections from the back to the parking lot, and we added additional bike racks outside as well, and additional connections out of the building on both sides, and I added one here connecting to the front of the dumpster, so when people walk out, they don't have to go to the public sidewalk and then back to the dumpster or cut across the grass. There's literally a paved path straight to it, which makes it easier for the residents. On parcel A in particular too, this is the revised landscape plan that we worked on with Aaron. And you'll notice that this particular tree is a palm. These are palms because there's aerial lines there, and there's also canopy trees on this side. However, every place we could stick it, a type 1 or a type 2, which are conical, they're tall and narrow, like bald cypress, for instance, or podocarpus, red cedar, those types of trees, still have canopies, they just grow tall. We stuck those where we could. There's already some on-street trees, so we added the additional there to replicate. Those are palms, so we added the additional palms. We added type 3 here. Totally fine, I believe, saying no crepe myrtle. We can come up with something else. Because the ones that are out there right now are doing poorly, and we're taking them out to replace them with something. So the whole goal here, you can see, is to beautify the streets. The street frontages, have a nice streetscape all the way around. And then also right in front of the buildings, between the units, to have an additional tree as well, so you get a dual canopy when you're walking down the sidewalk. And then make sure that everywhere in the parking lot where we could tuck in trees, specifically with the dumpsters, they don't want trees coming over them because it interferes, so we put type 2 and a type 3 there, so that they would grow either short or tall and narrow to stay away from that conflict. I'll move to parcel B, 18 units, 1,600 square feet. As Stephanie mentioned, we do have 3 motorcycle spaces and 18 bicycle slots. We're saving the 57-inch Grand Live Oak. And you'll notice that we did add additional walk-up units. And there's the storefront there. The site plan that you have shows those additions. Now, this is the one that is across the street. There is a single-family house here. However, 28th, if you actually drive down it, you'll notice it is a public street. It's got 18 feet of pavement, or it might be 16 actually. It's very, very narrow. It almost functions like a service road because all of the homes orient north-south. So what the dumpster is facing is the back corner of a side yard. It is this side yard actually, with the fencing. The dumpster comes out here and it's almost aligned with this driveway that goes into the house. This was just taken yesterday as well. Let's see. You'll notice that the additional walk-up units, the central corridor is still maintained. There is a canopy here that goes out 3 feet from the building over the commercial. I'll zoom in just a little bit. What I also tried to do, just to make it convenient for anyone that does go inside, right off that, there's a very wide walkway right here. The door is only, 7 or 8 feet wide. I put a larger pad there so there's room for people to congregate or wait in line or whatever this use is gonna be. I also put a bike rack here so it's convenient and can be seen when you go inside in case you have to pop in really quick and pop back out. You're not searching for a bike rack behind the building or anything else. So my goal was to try to make it as convenient as possible for the users of the site. Again, with the landscaping, we included this frontage along 29th. We were able to put in type 1 trees, so you have a very nice shade on that side. We also incorporated palms against the building because it's a smaller frontage. Added additional oaks here, or I say oaks, type 1. And then the backside, where the dumpster is, there's overhead lines here, so we had to go with the type 3. But we interspersed the type 2 where we could throughout the site as well. This one is bounded by lines here and here, so we were free to do what we wanted here, but not on the backside or the south side. Parcel C is 9 units, 15 parking spaces, 4 bicycle slots. We also added the pedestrian connections. We're committed to doing that. And the reason why I went through and revised these plans was to make sure it would work. Actually, the geometry and everything else, and the landscaping, because I had to make sure that the landscape area and the landscape planting areas still remained when I added all these additional connections. But there's 3 units on the bottom and the main corridor, additional connections back here, bike rack here. There's 2 parallel spaces here. This is an internal, this is the only one that doesn't actually have street frontage on all sides. It's just 2. To the south is commercial property also, but it's not owned by the CDC. The truck circulates through. As I mentioned, this one is 21 feet just because of the angle that it comes in because it's so short. They'll come in, get the trash, and then pull out and leave. Again, with the landscaping, brand new streetscaping, there are power lines here. Not on this side though, and not on this side. So we had to do type 3 here, but we introduced type 1 and a type 3 for sight distance from the driveway. We put type 2s here because of the narrowness of that area with the alley. And then there's off-site trees as well. We didn't want to conflict with the canopies, but we introduced as many type 1s as we could. We obviously want this to be pretty in the end. And then you got a glimpse of parcel D in the beginning as part of the vacating. This one is the 28 units, 3,000 square feet of commercial on the bottom floor, 35 parking spaces, 5 motorcycle spaces, and 17 bicycle slots. The plans that you have in front of you have the larger version of that. And you'll notice the walk-up units have been added. This is the commercial. And what we did at this corner, just like with the other one that has a wider pad, this one actually has 2 commercial doors. So I put the entire corner around that merges to the sidewalk, so it'll be a nice corner entrance into that commercial use. And I also put the bike rack right next to it for easy use. And then there's bike racks and motorcycle spots tucked around the site. We added the pedestrian connections that the planning commission mentioned, and urban design and development coordination, sorry. All the connections through, so from every part of the building, you can get out and get across, and I even put one here off of this walkway and the stairwell to connect directly to the dumpsters to make a clear path for that. This is the off-site grand tree. It's kind of shared, it's right on the property line that Aaron mentioned. And this is the sole encroachment is a little bit of turf block right there for that compact space. Other than that, it's completely protected. Landscape plan shows we're taking out all the trees along here. Those are the ones that are not doing well. If you went out there today, they're kind of leaning all over the place. These do have to be the type 3 trees because there's a power line right along the front there, and along this side, and along this side. This one's bounded by them. However, we introduced the type 1 trees within the parking lot as well as type 2s everywhere we could. You have those elevations in front of you. I also have the packet that I gave you with the renderings, which I wanted to show you really quickly, if I can find them. Oh, one last point. North 29th is a designated neighborhood main street in the East Tampa overlay. That was added in the last revision that was done. It was part of the East Tampa strategic action plan for how they want to grow. 29th is a local street by designation, by classification. However, its importance in the heritage, hence naming it Heritage Heights, it has a real significance to the area, and that's what this multi-phase plan is, to revitalize that. You'll notice I picked an old picture really quick just to show that there was pre-demolition on-street parking. There's a provision in the East Tampa overlay that does note where there's the wide pavement on these specific roads that have been historically parked. You still can use that, and people do. Even today, even though they're vacant, there are still cars parked up and down the street. In front of parcel B and D, there's approximately 16 additional spaces that can fit, and that's with the proper offsets from the hydrants and from the sidewalk ramps.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does council have any questions?
I wanted to speak after public comment.
Okay. Councilwoman Hurtak.
So, I have a couple of issues.
Okay.
I'm concerned that there's only 1 and 2 bedrooms because families are in need of housing as well. I'm curious why there was no bonus with this. And then my big thing, because I have to always do it, is bike parking. Outside bike parking for residents is not okay. Bikes are very expensive now, and I see a lot of cyclists in East Tampa. And I think that if we want to make this a walkable community and strive for that, we need to have protected bicycle parking. It doesn't have to be a whole room, but I would like for you to imagine what that could look like, to attach it to a building, covered somehow, protected, however that looks. I believe that will be a really important incentive for people who live in these, especially if you're at 40 to 60% AMI. The opportunity for you to own a car may not be there, but bicycles are 100% a way to get around. And so in all of I appreciate the way you put the bike parking at the front where there is commercial, but I would also like some consideration for residents and what can we do? How can we add something to each building to make that protected, covered parking for residents?
Glad you mentioned that. So the outdoor parking, and you'll notice if you look closely on the site plan, it does call out visitor bicycle parking on purpose because each unit does accommodate storage in them for bicycles. So you can take your bike up if you want to and actually secure it.
Okay.
And I also shared with the CDC and WODA bike lockers, some images and some
Okay.
specs on some bike lockers, and the covered ones that you can bring down
Yeah.
and lock. So that is something they're exploring, looking at specifically the bike lockers to find any space they can in the lobby, the big lobby area, and also
Yeah.
within the stairwells.
Great.
But each unit does accommodate the storage.
Okay, that's important.
If I lived there, I'd take my bike with me because I don't want
Me,
to leave it
well,
anywhere.
me
So,
too, but it's one of
yeah.
those things that as people start to use this more, micromobility, it is really critical. So I do appreciate that. I think both of those are really good solutions. So thank you for that. But definitely, I would like to know why wasn't bonus used for this?
Well, quite frankly, you can see how many adjustments we have even to parking. We hit essentially the 1.0, we're at 0.95, 0.98
Okay.
for each site, and it's maximized. Short of waiving more parking and not providing additional things, we took up, the building itself is 34 feet deep.
Okay.
It's literally one row of
Yeah.
units, because these properties are 100 feet deep.
Okay. Okay.
They're long, but they're only 100 feet deep. So this is essentially, it's 200 feet by 100 feet. If you did that as RS50 lots, what is that? 10 houses, maybe, at the most?
Yeah.
So they're squeezing as much as they can. If we were to bonus this and try to do more, it would have to go up more.
Yeah.
And we're at 47 feet, and 45 is what's under CG. So we tried to keep as close to balancing all the rules and not blowing it out of the water.
And then my last question was about the bedrooms. I mean, it would be really nice to be able to see at least 1 3-bedroom in each of these. I understand that space is at a premium and we're trying to house people as much as possible, but 40 to 60% is going to include a lot of families. There's a
Right.
lot of families who could fit in there, and 2-bedroom just doesn't work for a lot of people with kids. So just maybe being able to look at just at least 1 in each building.
I don't choose the units, obviously.
I know, but
So
I would
can
like
turn
to
this
hear
over.
someone speak to that.
Yes, and looking at that, we were looking at how we can best maximize the
Just-
site. Oh, Malik Jordan with Boulder Cooper Companies. And that's something that we can certainly take a look at. One of the things is we were trying to maximize the site with as many units of affordable housing as possible, realizing that we only had a certain footprint in which to work within. And also looking at how many units that we would need in order to apply for certain financing. I think 75 units is required in order to try to go after a 9% allocation. So trying to balance the number of units with going after the financing with the zoning is where we came up, and why we certainly like that unit mix. But it's certain definitely that we can look at, but those would be some of the challenges that we would have to tackle.
Okay, and how many units is in this development altogether?
75.
Okay, so you're just meeting that threshold for the funding.
Right.
Okay, I understand. I appreciate that explanation.
And there are other phases.
Start with your name,
Start with
please.
your name, yeah.
Sorry, Vanessa McCleary. I just wanted to mention that there are other phases. There are also townhouses that are going in that aren't part of this, that will be coming back with. We don't require any changes in land use to do those, but there are townhouses that would accommodate families because they're 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Okay, and then again, that's sort of, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask these questions, because this is what we're hearing over and over again is, housing for families, and so I really do appreciate the answer to all my questions.
So for the, Councilman Carlson, did you have anything to add? Any questions for the architect? So my biggest concern, you said you've already resolved, is that the walk-up and the integration with 29th Street, because that's so important for this district and activating this. Also, what I really want to make sure is, as you design that walk-up entrance, it's not just to cut through the rail, that we have a culture in our historical West Tampa and East Tampa and many areas of our Ybor City of porch culture, and having that integration. So when you design that street integration with these units, if you could at least tap into that, I think it would be very well received by this council when you come back. I say not just to have a cursory cut through, but something that enhances and enhances that street integration and is inviting and plays into that porch culture that we have.
So, and I appreciate that comment. If you look at the renderings that I gave you, and
Oh, name, you have to start with the name.
Catherine Coyle, sorry. Just by way of responding really quick, if you look at these renderings, you'll notice that I actually added a pad and the railing around it to create, above it is a Juliet balcony for each of these that juts out just a little bit. So it'll be right over this one. We continued with the same railing, the same material, with the connection. So there is a pad there. I'm picturing someone having a chair out there, some plants out there, they're having their morning coffee.
Awnings or some covers, so
Yeah.
that it's a covered space?
These particular Juliet balconies come out a couple of feet above
How many feet?
that space. I think it's 2, if I recall.
It'd be nice to have a legitimate awning on these things, yeah.
And we can certainly look at that between first and
Right.
second reading,
Yeah.
definitely. It would have to be in keeping with the other canopies, but there's space there potentially to add that. So we can look at that between
Yeah, I
first
mean,
and second reading.
I think it would really, again, this 29th is a really, really important street for the vision that we have for the city of Tampa, and particularly East Tampa. And I love the fact, I'll reserve this after public comment, like Councilman Escalco.
Yes, but we did take that into account, because I wanted to make sure if we're gonna put it there, if we're gonna put a door there, it needs to be a place. So it needs to create a space.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilman Miranda?
And just for my thinking, affordable housing is very needed. And it's not a new invention. It's been going on since the 30s and the 40s and so forth. In fact, I had the pleasure of living in one for a while, and even had solar. I had solar hot water heater, because the air conditioner hadn't been invented yet. I was born yesterday. And what I'm trying to tell you is that I don't see anything coming that has solar to help the people that are moving in to reduce the cost of electricity. And to me, that's a big part of how they're going to maintain their standard of living somehow. And it's a very, my mind, it saved a lot of people from maybe having more food on the table than they could eat. But it's I think, a necessity that's coming. And I'm going to turn in my electric bills today, and that has nothing to do with this thing, because I told the council 2 months ago and I forgot. But it's an investment that not only you get back as a developer, but the people who really need it and really need to have that reduced get the benefit of it, because they're the ones that are paying the electric bill. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilman Carlson? Hearing nothing? Okay. Very good. Is there any, staff, would you like to say something?
Oh, I'm okay with it, yes. We agree to the revision sheet, making the changes between first and second reading.
Okay.
Sure that you're okay with these. Add the walk-up units here.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then.
That's fine, yeah.
And then the porches to the walk-up units, the awnings.
We'll work on figuring out what material that'll be, yes.
Councilwoman Hurtak?
Ms. Coyle, I have one other question.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
love the way that you said there'll be space in the units for bikes. If there's a way you could bring at second reading an image of that and what that looks like, just to, it's not something I've considered, I mean, just a drawing or like, what would that look like if I were to bring it, like you said, I mean, you don't want to leave your bike out. If I brought mine in, where would I put it? So
Yeah.
just a visual would be really lovely,
Okay.
and because I think it will also give others some ideas as more people build more.
And I almost brought a picture
Say-
of the bike
say your na-
lockers
say
just
your
to
name when
show.
you- say your name before you-
Catherine Coyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then the bike locker as well. I know what it looks like, but it would also be nice
Yeah.
to see what that looks like so the general public has an idea. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Thank you.
So we have a revised revision sheet here
Double
to
revised.
submit.
Okay, very good. Very good. Hearing no other questions.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item?
Move to close.
Nobody that wishes to speak. Okay, we have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Viera. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Councilman Maniscalco.
So just a couple of comments now that this is closed. After a candidate forum, when I first ran for city council about 15 years ago, it was at the Baptist church right up the street here on 29th. After that forum, I walked down 29th and I saw the buildings, many of which are demolished and are no longer there. A photo was shown of what it used to look like. And I thought to myself, what a wonderful place to revitalize basically the heart of East Tampa. And a few years later, I had the same conversation with somebody who is now an elected official at the state level, when I talked about 29th Street. And I talked about how we don't have a black business district like we used to have with Central Avenue, which was a main corridor. And she said, I've always wanted to see 29th Street revitalized to bring that back. So this is very exciting. I know there's a lot of waivers. I know there's the revision sheets, and we've had a lot of discussion. But this is going to be such a huge catalyst for the neighborhood. You know, it's not my vision from 15 years ago because I walked down the street, but when you look at these neighborhoods and you see what like the CDC does when they acquire properties, because it takes time, and what could be. And this is such a wonderful example of bringing this area back. And I know this is just basically phase one because there's more to it. But when you come off Martin Luther King, yes, there's 22nd Street, and that's changed in my lifetime. But this corridor here is so critical. And this is exactly, I think, what we need. One of the things that I like in regards to affordability is the AMI was 40 and 60%. I know we talked about, you know, multi-units, 3 bedrooms because you want to accommodate families, but we have such a demand for housing in general, and this is going to focus on the neediest, you know, the most vulnerable of our community. I like the design. I like the commercial on the bottom floor. I like the fact that was mentioned about a grocery store because there is not access to fresh food. In this area, you go down Martin Luther King, you go down these corridors, and that's one of the biggest things that's lacking. So again, I am excited to support this. I was briefed on this a few days ago regarding, you know, the different issues, you know, with solid waste, with, you know, I'm glad to see that 29th is activated for pedestrian access because it'll be a walkable, it'll be a real neighborhood, you know, and people can live there with pride because it's new construction. It's not, you're not revitalizing or restoring an old building. You're giving, you know, people can live in dignity, with dignity there. So again, I'm going to support this. I'm excited. I know there's a lot of changes between first and second reading, a lot of tweaks, but this is going to get the ball rolling for what that area needs. So I'm happy to support.
Would you like to read that, Councilman Maniscalco?
Yeah.
Councilman Hurtak, you have something to say?
Yes, I agree with Councilwoman Maniscalco. I know there's a lot of, you know, I was curious why this was all put together instead of individual PDs, and that question was answered when you're trying to get to that 75 number. Now that makes more sense to me. And I get that. The only issue that I have with this development that isn't going to be solved with this particular portion, but to keep in mind, is green space for activity space. And that might be coming in a different portion, but that is my only concern. But I mean, for better or for worse, there's a lot of empty space nearby that hopefully something can become more of a community gathering spot. But otherwise, I agree, I will support this project.
You know, it's an urban street, so the park on Lake, and, you know, I mean, I think we're trying to urbanize that area and urbanize that street.
It's true, but some of our elderly residents aren't going to be able to walk that far.
Yeah.
So as they continue to develop out, but
Mr. Shelby, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just want to, before the motion is made, just to inquire how much time, given the amount of revisions, how much time is needed between first and second reading?
If I may, the plans that you have.
Motion to reopen.
Oh, sorry.
We have a motion to reopen from Councilman Hurtak, second from Councilman Beer. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Start with your name.
Catherine Coyle. The plans that you actually have before you answer, I would say 98% of what's on that list, minus the couple of things that were just added tonight. The notes about no crepe myrtle and some of the other ones. So I can get them done in a matter of days and get them back in time.
And creating the facades and.
I think it's 7 days. Is that what it is? 7 days?
What's the date?
6.
November 6th? November 6th.
Yeah,
So
I think I have a
how-
week to turn them in, right? Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
sufficient?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, motion to close, please. We have a motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, the ayes have it unanimously. Thank you so much, Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I've been to so many events since I started in politics, and that candidate forum and the night that I walked down 29th Street, it always sticks with me.
And we talk about the street a lot, so.
But it's, I'm excited for this. So I'd like to read this ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3801, 3803, 3807, 3809, 3811, 3813, 3813 and a half, 3815, 3817, 3819, 3729, 3723, 3719, 3615, 3603, and 3601 North 29th Street, and 2803 East 32nd Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida. More particularly.
No, back up.
What?
From RM16.
I didn't get there yet.
Well,
And 3601 North 29th Street and 2803 East 32nd Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily, CG commercial general, and PD plan development to PD plan development residential multifamily and storefront residential commercial office, all CG uses except bar, lounge, place of religious assembly, restaurant greater than 10 seats, providing an effective date, and that revised revision sheet and all the changes that were on the record between now and second reading to come back on November 6th.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Vieira. Roll call vote, please.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Vieira, Carlson,
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Did you have, I'm going to.
Thank
Yeah.
you, council.
Okay, very good.
I'm sure you'll all be invited to the groundbreaking.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and so council will be in recess. We will rejoin, actually, let's make it 13, to make it an even 7:15, 7:10, 7:10. And there's pizza back there.
In the morning or in the evening? Is that AM or PM?
We'll leave it to your discretion. call this meeting of City Council back to order. Roll call, please.
Miranda. Maniscalco. Hurtek.
Here.
Vieira. Carlson.
Here.
Clendenin.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. We are left with item number 7.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Christopher Demosh with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7 is REZ 2582. This is a request to rezone 6008 South 6th Street from RS 60 to planned development for residential single-family detached uses. The subject site is outlined in red on the aerial map. It is located on the east side of South 6th Street. Subject site is also north of Interbay Boulevard and west of South McDill Avenue. The subject site is undeveloped. It is bisected by a stormwater culvert that runs through the entirety of the site from east to west. The surrounding development pattern to the north, south, east, and west of the site is comprised of single-family detached units with RS 60 and RS 50 zoning. We do have a site plan. The total lot size is 13,194 square feet, with the applicant proposing to create 2 lots, each lot containing a single-family detached unit. The north lot will be approximately 6,556 square feet, and the south lot will be 6,638 square feet. Each unit will have front doors oriented along South 6th Street. Each unit will contain a 2-car garage, and there is also a proposed 5-foot sidewalk running adjacent to the public right-of-way. Next, we have elevations. This is the elevations for the north lot. The home shown on this elevation has a max height of 30 feet 8 inches. Next elevation is for the south lot with a max height depicted of 24 feet. There is one waiver requested with this application. I also have some photos to show of the subject site. First, we have the subject site. North of the subject site. South of the subject site. Looking south on 6th Street, South 6th Street. Looking east, that's from the subject site, looking east and west of the subject site. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed this petition, and we find the request consistent with the applicable City of Tampa land development regulations. Should it be the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, further modifications to the site plan must be completed by the applicant between first and second reading, as stated on the revision sheet, and I am available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Collins.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. This case is in the South Tampa Planning District. It's within the Interbay South of Gandy neighborhood. It's within Evacuation Zone A, and portions of the site are in the coastal hazard area. It's currently designated Residential 10. That Residential 10 surrounds the subject site on all sides. Just to the east over here of South McDill Avenue, which has parcels designated as CMU 35. Planning Commission staff has reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This rezoning will allow for enhanced utilization of the land consistent with the density anticipated under the R10 designation. The comprehensive plan recognizes the importance of single-family neighborhoods, seeking to promote compatible redevelopment of neighborhoods to ensure economic health, and that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet Tampa's population needs. The surrounding area is predominantly residential in character, with some commercial uses along Interbay Boulevard and South McDill Avenue, which are, again, to the east of the subject site and south is Interbay Boulevard. Further, the proposed PD provides a 5-foot 5-foot sidewalk adjacent to the site along South 6th Street, which is consistent with the policy direction in the comprehensive plan. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan. That concludes my presentation.
Does council have any questions? Thank you very much. Applicant? Start with your name, please.
Andre Cash, I was sworn. My partner, Andrei Petrov.
Andrei Petrov, I was sworn.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, staff members. In essence, it boils down that the reason for this request is when Andre and I bought this lot in June 2024, we were going to build one single-family house. In the process of permitting, we discovered that there is a pipe culvert underneath the site, and it wasn't part of our title work. There was no easement. So we started talking to realtors and realized that it's going to be an issue selling a house with a pipe running underneath. That's why we wanted to design something to keep the pipe between the homes, and with working with the city staff members, I think we accomplished a really good product that is consistent with the rest of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? We have somebody coming up here. Good evening.
Good evening, Stephanie Pointer. I usually don't make commentary about single-family detached properties, but when this gentleman here just threw up the site plan, it said 24 or 25% required green space. Sorry, but I thought the rule was 50% pervious surface and setbacks 5 feet apart instead of 7 feet apart. Just saying. And if we got to take out a tree and then we're making extra large buildings, we're kind of pushing our luck. I want to know about the impervious surface, because we don't need any more impervious surface than we cannot go over the 50%. That's absolutely unacceptable. They're putting 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag if that's the case. I was trying to look at it, and I usually don't say anything about single-family detached, because you know what? That's what the lots are made for. But if they're building 75% impervious surface, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely unacceptable. You just got a report 2 weeks ago in the CAAP that recommends that we actually reduce the amount of impervious surface down here. So they need to answer that question. I'm sorry, I'm unprepared, but you know, when I saw that big, huge letters, is there a difference between that and the impervious surface? And I'm not real hip on taking the tree out to double the size of the building.
Staff, would you like to provide clarification?
Thank you. Aaron Mayor Development Coordination, a single-family detached home requires 25% of the lot to be green space. The pervious is something different. That's stormwater. That's not something that I actually review. And then the Grand Laurel, it's a laurel oak that they're removing. You know, they don't survive construction well. So we were supporting the waiver for the removal of this grand tree.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
For the record, Chris DeMonch, Development Coordination. We do have a data table here showing both the north lot and the south lot, and we have the impervious versus the pervious.
Can you move that up and zoom it in for us, please?
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah, move it up a little bit more and zoom it in.
There we go.
And a little bit more because we have the closed caption, so like bring it about halfway up the page.
There we go. A little more? Okay.
Yep.
No, not zooming.
Move it up.
Physically move the paper.
Yeah, like about an inch or two.
Keep going.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
All right, so as I was going to mention, we have the site data table for the south lot and the north lot. The total pervious area is 50%. The one we want to try to keep down on is the impervious surface, and both the north lot and the south lot are under that 50% threshold. If they're anywhere north of that, then we're looking at on-site stormwater.
Very good. Thank you. And the
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just wonder if staff could talk to us about how the stormwater is going to be handled. If it doesn't have to be maintained on site, how will this plan keep the stormwater from rolling into other houses?
Chris Demonch, Development Coordination. Stormwater is handled at the time of permitting.
Yeah, they do that at permitting, Bill. Outside of our area.
Discussion for another day.
Okay, thanks, perfect. Okay, so for the, is there anything else? Applicant, would you like an opportunity for rebuttal?
No.
No? Okay, you're good. Okay, anybody else from the public wishes to speak? Hearing none, is there a motion to close? We have a motion to close, Councilman Maniscalco, a second from? Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Councilman Miranda, would you like to read this item, please?
I'll read item number 7, Mr. Chairman. File number RZ 25-82. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property general vicinity of 6008 South 6th Street in Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described from Section 1 zoning district classification RS 60 single family, residential single family to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Second.
Thank you.
With waivers, one waiver.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. Roll call, please. Did you have something to say before you vote? You look like you're anticipating something. Okay, next, ready for the next one? Okay, very good. Roll call vote, please.
Carlson?
No.
You said no?
No.
Miranda?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Clendenin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried with Carlson voting no. Okay. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
You're good. Okay, number 8.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 8 is REZ 2583, request to rezone 6307 South Main Avenue from RS 60 to RS 50. We'll start with a look at the survey of the property. You can see the outline of the property here. The applicant intends to split the lot into 2 parcels. The frontage for the lots is proposed on South Main Avenue, with parcel A here having a 55-foot frontage and parcel B here having a 50-foot frontage. Here's an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site outlined in red here. The subject parcel is on South Main Avenue, which is right here, and it is located on the west side of South Main, south of Inner Bay, which is right here. The surrounding area's development pattern is characterized by single-family detached uses to the north, south, west, and east. There is one recent PD, which is over here, to the west that has commercial and single-family residential uses. Now we have the conforming map. The subject site is part of the Inner Bay A revised plat, Block G, lots 13 and 14, and 1/2 closed alleys abutting thereon. The subject block, Block G, was platted in 1918 with 20 lots with frontage ranging in width from 32 feet to 64 feet. The area of analysis includes 290 parcels. 125 parcels, or 43%, have been developed with a width of 60 foot or greater, and 165, or 57%, have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. The following analysis being provided focuses on the parcels facing South Main Street and some of the surrounding blocks. We kind of focused on the block face here, the one here, right here on Inner Bay, and then the one back here behind it. The remaining analysis have been provided in the staff report. The subject block face, which contains the subject site, which is in the hatched area here, on the west side of South Main Avenue, from Inner Bay to Victoria Avenue, contains 5 parcels, including the subject site, with 3 parcels or 60% having lot widths of 100 feet or greater, and 2 parcels or 40% having lot widths of 50 foot to 54.99 feet. The block face on the south side of Inner Bay between South Main and Inner Bay Avenue, so that would be Inner Bay Avenue over here, contains 3 parcels with 2 or 67% having lot widths of 50 foot to 54.99 feet, and 1 parcel or 33% having a lot width of 60 feet to 64.99 feet. The block face across from the subject site on the east side of Inner Bay between Inner Bay Boulevard and West Victoria Avenue contains 6 parcels. So I'm sorry, that is this here, with the other one with the 3 is here. That one contains 7 parcels with 6 parcels with 4 parcels or 66% having lot widths of 50 feet to 54.99 feet, and 1 parcel or 17% having a lot width of 65 feet to 69.99 feet, and 1 parcel or 17% having a lot width of 100 feet or greater. The block face on the east side of South Main between Inner Bay and West Victoria, so that would be here, contains 7 parcels with 1 parcel or 14% having lot width of 80 feet to 99.99 feet, 4 parcels or 57% having lot widths of 50 feet to 54.99 feet, and 2 parcels or 29% having lot widths of 45 feet to 49.99 feet. Staff have identified in the overall study area that 43% of the parcels have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 57% have a width of 59.99 feet or less. While there are a variety of lot sizes within the vicinity of the subject site, staff find the proposed request to be consistent with the existing development pattern of the overall study area. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, there is no site plan or elevations. Next, I'll show some photos of the site and the surrounding area. Here is a picture of the subject site. This is another photo of the subject site from a different viewpoint. This is looking north on Main Avenue, and then looking south on Main Avenue. And then this is across Main from the subject site. We have east of the subject site on Main, south of the subject site on Main. This is across Inner Bay Boulevard. This is over on Inner Bay Avenue. And then here we have one on the other side on Selborne. Development Coordination compliance staff review the application and find the request to be consistent with the Land Development Code. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilman Carlson? No. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Collins.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. The site is located in the South Tampa Planning District, and it's also within the Inner Bay South of Guinea neighborhood. It's in Evacuation Zone B, and the subject site, including the parcels surrounding it, are designated as Residential 10. The comprehensive plan emphasizes the importance of preserving single-family neighborhoods while supporting a compatible development to maintain economic vitality and ensure sufficient land is available to meet the city's housing needs. The surrounding area is primarily characterized by single-family detached homes located north and south of Inner Bay Boulevard. North and south of Inner Bay Boulevard. This request would provide a similar development pattern in the area. Overall, the RS 50 district can be considered in the R10 designation. Any future development of the site will be required to comply with the RS 50 zoning standards in the LDC. The applicant should ensure that sidewalks are provided along the property's frontage. or pay the sidewalk in lieu fee at the time of permitting, and making sure that they address those policies in the plan with regard to providing sidewalks. Based on the above considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan, and this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Applicant? Good evening. Start with your name.
Good evening, Council. Kevin Robles, 2107 Chestnut Forest Drive, and I have been sworn in. I want to thank staff and the Planning Commission for their comprehensive explanation of this rezone, and I have nothing further to ask unless council has questions for me.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicants? Bill, any questions? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close? Motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Who do we leave with? Councilman Vieira, would you like to read this one? Okay.
So, excuse me.
Mike.
Turned it off. Thank you. I read an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 6307 South Main Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Hurtek?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Clendenin?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Have a good night. Councilwoman Hurtek.
Item 9 is next, and I am going to recuse myself because I live right next to that block. So, so I am going to file my Form 8B. Can I get a second? Second. Okay.
We have a motion from Councilman Hurtek, a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay, item number 9.
Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 9 is REZ 2584. Request to rezone 5802 and 5804 North Florida Avenue and 101 and 103 West Henry Avenue from Seminole Heights PD to Seminole Heights PD for storefront residential, commercial office, and all CG uses. We'll start with an aerial view of the subject site and the surrounding area. You can see the subject site outlined in red on the northwest side of North Florida Avenue, which is right here, and West Henry Avenue. The development pattern in the immediate area of the subject site is a mix of residential single family, mostly to the west here, and commercial uses, which you can see all along North Florida Avenue.
Hello.
North and east of the subject site along North Florida Avenue are commercial uses. South of the subject site along East Henry are a mix of commercial uses along North Florida Avenue and residential single-family detached uses as you move further west along West Henry Avenue. On the western boundary of the subject site are residential single-family detached uses. Here's the site plan provided by the applicant. The applicant proposes storefront residential, commercial with all commercial general uses. Here is the parcel, and just so you know that this dotted line here encompasses the building, and then this part is also the building. A 60-foot tall, 70,200 square foot building is proposed with frontage along North Florida Avenue, which is here. The building will contain 6,804 square foot of commercial use on the ground floor and 63,396 square foot of multifamily use. The multifamily portion of the building contains 67 units with 26 units provided as affordable housing. The commercial use is oriented towards North Florida Avenue. So here you can see the commercial use will be in this area. And they have entrances located both from the parking area and from North Florida. And then they have pedestrian access located along West Henry as well. The vehicular ingress and egress to the site is proposed off West Henry Avenue along the 10-foot alley on the west, providing the access to the surface parking. And then there is bicycle parking and storage provided within the building. The site has a future land use designation of CC 35 and CMU 35. Projects in both FLU designations allow for up to 30 dwelling units per acre by right and up to 35 dwelling units with bonus provisions met and may be determined by either density or FAR. Given the uses proposed of storefront, residential, commercial, all CG uses, the development is allowed a 1.5 FAR by right and up to 2.0 FAR with bonus provisions met. The applicant is proposing a 1.9 FAR, which requires a bonus agreement. The applicant has entered into a bonus agreement agreeing to provide 10% of units as affordable housing. Here are the elevations provided by the applicant. This is the south elevation here. This is the north elevation. Then we have the east elevation here and the west elevation. Next, I'll show you some photos of the site and surrounding areas. Here's a photo of the subject site. This is the east end on Florida Avenue. This is the south end of the subject site on Henry, looking north. This is the site looking east towards Florida Avenue. This is the single-family residential north of the site. This is looking south across Henry, and you can see the commercial. This is looking west on Henry for those single-family residential homes. This is the west side of the site, and there's that alley, and then the single-family residential homes. This is east of the site on Florida Avenue. This is east again on Florida. Looking south down Florida. This is north of the site. And then this is the development that is a little bit further north of the south, the site that is very similar to this site. Development coordination and compliance staff review the application and find the request to be inconsistent with the land development code. There are 5 waivers as part of this request. If City Council approves the application, the modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the inconsistent findings of transportation. I'm available for any questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilman Carlson, any questions? Very good. Mr. Collins.
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, I was sworn in. This site is within the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically with the Seminole Heights Urban Village. It is in Evacuation Zone D. It has the eastern portion of the site is designated CC 35, which is shown by the red color on your map, and then the western portion is designated as CMU 35. Planning Commission staff reviewed the application and found it supported a number of policies in the comprehensive plan, particularly those related to development and mixed-use corridors. The request includes building entrances that face both West Henry Avenue and North Florida Avenue, with pedestrian access connecting to a 5-foot sidewalk along West Henry and a 7-foot sidewalk along Florida Avenue. Vehicular access is proposed from the adjacent alley, helping preserve the streetscape and improve pedestrian safety. Parking is located beneath the building, and trees will be screened in front, or will screen the garage from West Henry Avenue, consistent with LU policy 1.2.27. North Florida Avenue is a transit emphasis corridor, and the design promotes walkability and transit use in line with LU policy 6.1.5. Staff finds, overall, the staff finds the proposed PD compatible with the surrounding development in the area. There were a few minor revisions that are on your revision sheet that Planning Commission staff recommends the applicant address between first and second reading. Overall, the request supports policies in the comprehensive plan that relate to housing the city's population. It encourages new housing on vacant, underutilized land. And overall, it was consistent with the city's growth strategy, directing growth to the urban villages. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the city of, consistent with the comprehensive plan for the city of Tampa. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Applicant?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ryan Alhepshi. Happy to be in front of you to present the project Res 25-000084 West Henry Mixed-Use Development located at 5802 and 5804 North Florida Ave and 101 and 103 West Henry Avenue. We're here in support of the applicant's request, Algo Florida LLC, for rezoning to allow for the construction of a 67-unit affordable housing community. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you, and we have the staff report, and we plan to make the changes, which weren't much, for the second hearing. And with that, I just want to open it right up to questions.
Any questions? Councilman Carlson? No? Hearing none. Okay, thank you. That completes your presentation?
Yep.
Anybody from the audience wish to speak to this item? Thank you. Start with your name, please.
My name's Allison Date, and I've been sworn in. I don't know why I always lose my voice when I'm here, but anyway, I was under the impression that there was a B7 live oak on this property. And it was, is that not true?
We'll get clarification once you're done.
What?
When you're done, we'll get clarification.
Okay. So, and I think that we are losing a lot of trees, and we continue to lose trees in the Tampa tree canopy. And so I think it's important to pay attention to, especially one that's a B7, because there aren't many of them left. And so that's what I was here to speak about, but there wasn't even anything mentioned about the landscaping. So I don't know. I feel like I don't have enough information, but I was wondering if the bonus was based on being able to remove that tree. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking maybe had happened. And I think it's wonderful that there is so much affordable housing, but I also think that because we have so few of the live grand oaks left, it's really important to pay attention to each one, especially when they're that valuable of a tree. And if you remember in the 2021 study, just 3% of live oaks and cypress make up 51% of the coverage that was left in our city, and that's now been reduced. So I'm concerned about losing any really valuable live oak. And I think that the people living in that housing also deserve some trees if there's any way to save them. So that's what I wanted to talk about.
We'll get clarification from staff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. How you doing, stranger?
Good evening, Keela McCaskill. You know, in a city where the mayor has an aggressive goal to create 10,000 affordable housing units in throughout the city, it means that we need to have properties that are developed for affordable housing everywhere, even in some of our backyards, even if we don't want it, which means that we need you to come out of the box. We need you to say yes to this rezoning, because not only does it lend the opportunity to affordable housing, as a real estate professional, now new developer, one of the hottest areas in this city outside of Water Street, downtown, Midtown, and of course, when it's luxury, it's Bay Shore, Davis Island, Harbor Island. One of the most requested by working people, teachers, those that work at the hospital, is Seminole Heights. And unfortunately, there's not enough units available that's modern enough for them to live there, and they're certainly not affordable. Here we have the opportunity to provide affordable, and we also have an opportunity to provide affordable housing in one of the most desired areas in this city. And the city has already approved $5 million in funding. They put their money where their mouth is. Now we need you all to say yes to this opportunity in Seminole Heights, which is, again, one of the hottest areas in this city, in order for us to reach the demand for more workforce and affordable housing. And when I look at some of the things that I researched about the project, it's already doing great things in the city. It's not even up yet. It was nominated for an award. Did you know that? It was nominated for an award. It says that this 101 West Henry project has been nominated as a finalist for multifamily and a mixed-use deal of the year excellence award already, and it hasn't even started. And all we need for you all to say is yes. This apartment club is a transformative mixed-use development. And it has on here, I saw that it has the 5-story project will deliver 67 units, including 26 affordable housing units at 80%. And it says, or at 26 units at affordable housing units, 80%, and then there's some that's at 120% AMI. And while the bonus said 10%, the highest AMI is 120. They didn't go to 140. They stay right there at 120. So it is a true opportunity to provide for affordable housing in one of the most desired areas of this city. I just don't think somebody shouldn't be able to live in Seminole Heights because there's no availability of affordable housing. This is your opportunity to have a good yes in the city for your teachers, for working people that wants to be in the middle of the great things going on in this city. Thank you for saying yes to the project.
Thank you, Gil. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Natural Resources, would you like to provide clarification about I read the staff report.
All right, Aaron Mayor Development Coordination. Allison Date is correct that there is a B5 live oak on the site. That is this tree right here in the parking. The building line does come out, I believe, to about here. This tree does have a very large canopy. They are saving this grand live oak in the corner, and they provided, I think it's 25, 27 feet to the building over here. So they're providing ample room to protect this tree. They also made a setback large enough where they can actually plant shade trees along Florida Avenue, which is, I mean, if you've ever walked Florida Avenue, it's awful. You feel like a car is gonna smack you. So I'm really excited to actually get shade trees there. There's no overhead wires out front. And this is a hazard laurel oak here. I do have photos of these trees as well. The laurel oak is, practically dead. This is the live oak here that Allison Date was referring to. It has lost 2 scaffold limbs in the past. You can see these failures right here into the trunk. And this on the right side is the live oak that's along Florida Avenue that's being preserved. They do meet green space. Because this is storefront residential, they are only required to provide VUA green space on the site per the code, and they are exceeding it by about over 5,000 square feet from what's required. So based on all of these items, they can provide the required trees that the project requires. Natural Resources did support it.
So just for clarification, the site plan requires those oak type of shade trees on Florida, so that's a requirement?
Yep, they're called out as type 1 shade trees on the landscape
What about
plan.
about the size of them, or Does it?
The size is just the normal Seminole Heights. I believe they're 4-inch caliper along the right of way.
How many are they gonna plant?
There only is room for like 4.
4? That's pretty
but,
good.
Yeah, I think they're 30 feet apart,
Yeah.
so hopefully they can, grow pretty large there.
Okay. Did you get all the clarification you needed? Yeah, thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Susan Johnson, Velez, Legal Department. There's been a lot of talk about the affordable units that are going in this project and agreements and so forth, so I did want to provide some clarification on that too. So the developer has entered into one agreement with the city through HCD where the city provides funding for affordable units. So under that agreement, there will be 26 affordable units that will be provided in this project. And then separate and apart from that is a bonus provision agreement that's related to this rezoning. You'll see it in your agenda. It's referenced that you will consider at second reading, but the 26 units under the HCD agreement did not count towards the bonus units that were required to achieve the bonus density. So there will be an additional 7 units of affordable housing that are provided as the bonus amenity. So that is 33 total affordable housing units. And the bonus density was unrelated to the tree removal waiver.
Interesting. Very good. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Okay, nobody else in the public who wishes to speak? Can I get a motion to close? I have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman, where are we left? Maniscalco, I guess, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5802 North Florida Avenue, 5802 North Florida Avenue, units A, B, C, and D, 5804 North Florida Avenue, and 101 and 103 West Henry Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification SHPD, Seminole Heights Plan Development, to SHPD, Seminole Heights Plan Development, storefront, residential, commercial, office, all CG uses, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from?
Second.
Councilman Miranda. All those, excuse me, roll call, please. Yeah, here's the second, yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira, Carlson,
Yes.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Motion carried with Hurtek abstaining. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
And then the substitute resolution, we have to wait until after second reading.
Second reading,
so.
right.
Yep.
And you've drawn the short straw on all these numbered, all the numbers tonight.
I like them.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're moving on to number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 10 is REC 2585. This is a request to rezone 3802, 3802 Suite B and Suite B2, 3804 and 3804 A, B, and C, Southdale Mabry Highway, 3802 Britton Plaza A and C, and 3618 West Euclid Avenue from RS50 to CG. We will start with an aerial of the subject site, which is outlined in red. The subject site is located at the intersection of West Euclid Avenue and South Sterling Avenue. The property has approximately 122 feet of street frontage along West Euclid and 110 feet of street frontage along South Sterling Avenue. The property is adjacent to an office, medical office, and single-family detached to the east, single-family detached to the north, a medical office and retail to the west, and retail to the south. The subject site is currently zoned RS50. South of the subject site is the rest of Britton Plaza. As you'll see from the aerial, this site includes 2 lots along the right-of-ways that I've mentioned, and the rest of the parcel to the south extends into Britton Plaza, and actually includes portions of existing buildings, drive aisles, and parking areas. It should also be noted that the subject site has a future land use has 2 future land use designations. The first is R20, which is limited to the northern portion of the site, and the remainder is CC 35. The reason I bring this up is that the applicant, this particular site also has a future land use designation change that has already gone before council for a first reading and is scheduled for a second reading on October 23rd. And of course, that future land use designation change is necessary in order for the requested rezoning to be applicable to this site. Next, we have a survey, again showing general outline. The site overall, outlined in red, is approximately 3.36 acres. Given the surrounding uses, the requested use of CG zoning is appropriate in location, and it provides an appropriate transition with surrounding parcels. Since this is the Euclidean rezoning, there's no site plan or elevations to provide. Having a look at this site, this is the view from West Euclid Avenue. This is those vacant lots. This is the view from South Sterling, looking east. This is the southern portion of the site, which is parking. Looking west, this is also included in the subject site, as well as a portion of that building on the left. This is a larger picture. Whoops. Make sure we show those. All right. And this kind of shows you a larger view of that building that's included as part of the subject site. This is the view of the same building here. Looking east, a very small portion of this building is included in the subject site, along with the drive aisle to the left in that photo. North of the subject site, south of the subject site, you can see the remainder of Britton Plaza. And then when looking further east along South Himes, we have single-family detached. Immediately east of the subject site, this is adjacent to those two lots that are right up by Euclid. Looking west, this is looking across South Sterling. And further west, this is the pet supermarket. This is on the furthest side, closest to Dale Mabry. And Development Coordination and Compliance staff has reviewed this application, and we do find the request consistent with the Land Development Code. So I am available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Collins.
Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in. This case is in the South Tampa Planning District. It's within the Fair Oaks, Manhattan neighborhood. Chris kind of denoted to this. So the parcel that is currently designated on our map as residential 20 is in the process of a plan amendment. You guys heard this at your hearing on September 25th for a change from the R20 to the CMU 35. It is scheduled for second reading on October 23rd. So this parcel here is being proposed for the CMU 35. The southern portion of the site is CC 35. The subject site is in evacuation zone B. The proposed CG zoning district is consistent with the underlying future land uses of CMU 35 and CC 35. Given the site's location within Britton Plaza and its frontage along Southdale Mabry Highway and along portions along Euclid Avenue, which has a mixture of office and some commercial uses, the Planning Commission staff finds the request comparable and compatible to that non-residential development pattern in the area. Additionally, the rezoning would enable development of a currently vacant site, aligning with LU Policy 2.1.2, which supports infill development on vacant and utilized sites. The comprehensive plan promotes commercial development that enhances the character and ambience of the city of Tampa while prioritizing pedestrian safety. Any future development should address the design policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to development within mixed-use centers and corridors. Additionally, any development should promote context-sensitive uses and enhance the pedestrian experience through street-oriented building placement and rear parking on the site. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the proposed proposed rezoning consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Bill, are you good? Councilman Carlson? Okay, applicant, please.
Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. In an attempt to be brief, I'm not even plugging in the laptop, so I'm just going to show this photo on screen. To give a little bit of background, we were wholly convinced that this was either a technical error in the GIS or there was like some scrivener's error as to why a portion of Britton Plaza was residential, but in reviewing the old historical maps, this is correct. So we are proposing this evening to rezone this portion outlined in red, that yellow shaded portion, to commercial general to align with the rest of the plaza. I mentioned this during the comp plan amendment hearing, but Brexmore Property Group acquired Britton Plaza, as you all know, and they own about 350 open-air retail shopping centers throughout the nation. So they are really focused on commercial development, and that is going to be the main intent here at Britton Plaza, as I'm sure you've all seen in the renderings that have been released recently. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
As you may or may not know, we have gotten a lot of email about that, so I appreciate you mentioning. So this is for commercial.
Yes, it is, and I did mean to mention that because I was reviewing those letters earlier, and I was going to say, I think I would consider those support letters because this is a rezoning to CG. So yes, this is intended to permit commercial uses across the site.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we've clarified that.
Yeah, I think it's odd, like you said, you look at it, you think, well, that doesn't match the existing use, so it's
Right.
kind of crazy, how did we get here, right?
Right, and even weirder, and maybe I shouldn't add this on the record, but the PetSmart or the pet supermarket building is commercial, and so I don't know how a building permit was pulled for that, but it was way back then, so.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody in the public wish to speak to this item?
Yes, I just have a clarification.
Well, hold on 1 second. Stand behind her, and then
Oh, I'm sorry.
you want to go first? Okay, come up to the podium, and start with your name.
Basil Techie.
Okay.
I just wanted a clarification on the map that was presented. If it was, I don't know, put it right here.
Yes, it'll come up.
This part right here, what is that square right there, or?
That is the parcel that the applicant is requesting to have rezoned.
Rezoned. What is the future plan, if any, right now?
They're changing it from residential to commercial general.
Right, but is there anything to be put on there? The reason I ask is because my house is right there, behind it, and I just wanted to know if there's.
I'll let the applicant address that. I mean, I'll let,
Okay.
when we're done, let's go through public comment, then you can address the issues.
Okay.
All the issues at once. Okay. Ms. Pointer?
Good evening, Stephanie Pointer. We've been in contact with the developer and they intend to only do retail, commercial, whatever there. But unfortunately, this zoning can allow for multifamily on there if they do an SU1. And I just want to put it on the record. I've sat here all evening to put on the record that when we do this comp plan amendment, when we finally get it changed, that we were putting in that future land use that is commercial only moving forward. And this is exactly why. We've had other properties that have come before us and said, oh, we're gonna do this. And they went to be CMU 35, and then now they're for sale for residential property. So we've gotten hosed before on this, and this is why we need this. This is the perfect example, and that's the only reason why I'm here. I support this project. Somebody called me about it and said, these developers only basically do retail. They've taken into consideration some residential, and I said, this is not the place to start, and it'll be a cold day in hell. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Now I can go home.
Thank you, Ms. Pointer. Applicant, would you like to address the one citizen's concerns about this?
Sure. Since this is a Euclidean rezoning, we don't have any site plans associated with this, and I think there's been some concept plans that have been shared between different renderings and stuff like that, but this rezoning is not going to specifically designate what exactly goes in this land boundary, just that it can be a commercial general use.
Perhaps staff could provide some clarification about what CG means to the adjacent homeowner.
Also, I was going to say, Ms. Shaler, or rather when those are available, when you are working on that, will you be reaching out to the neighbors?
Yes, yes. I know
Okay.
that they've already started coordination with the neighborhood,
Okay,
but
so-
I will actually get his email so we can make sure
Perfect.
that he gets the concepts.
Excellent, I appreciate that.
Staff, can you, for the neighbor, could you clarify?
Sure. Christopher DeMonge, Development Coordination. Commercial General, it's a district which provides areas where a variety of retail and commercial services activities can be conducted compatible with surrounding uses in residential districts. That's from the Land Development Code. It's in our staff report here, in our findings. But in general terms, I mean, look at the area that's there now. If they were to try to develop this, I mean, the subject site includes a portion of 2 existing buildings there, as well as parking areas and a driveway aisle. So, and really, in retrospect, talking with the applicant and hearing them tonight, I mean, this is really a cleanup. There's 2 lots along Euclid that they could develop, but I don't see how that could be developed with multifamily on those 2 little lots.
So it would, just for clarification, the rest of Britton Plaza is already zoned this exact same zoning?
Correct.
They're
Yep.
just unifying their parcel to be the equivalent of the, 80% of the rest of the parcel or more, whatever's going in around 90% of the parcel. So it's just a unification, so the same classification of zoning that all where the Publix is and the Burlington Coat Factory.
Correct.
Now the pet supermarket and the Marshalls and the old Big Lot store will all be the same.
Yep, it just unifies the whole site under CG, so.
Okay. Does that satisfy your questions?
Well, it's just that the idea for that,
I know.
depending on what goes in here, that could potentially block our residences.
Well, again,
Difference.
this is just a rezoning.
Right,
So
I
this-
understand, but
yeah.
that's where the details come in
You
as
have to
to
start
where
your
they
name
can
again,
put
I'm
in
sorry.
there, that's all.
Can you
So I
state your
just
name for
wanted
the
to-
record for me, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you state your name for the record?
Basil Techie, I'm sorry, I
Thank you.
did
Thank
that
you
the
very
first
much.
time.
Okay,
So-
is anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak to this item? Okay.
I'm sorry?
You have anything else to add?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we get a motion to close, please? We have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? The ayes have it unanimously, thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Item number 10, file number REZ 25-85, orders be presented for first reading consideration. An orders rezoning property general vicinity of 3802 South Del Mabry Highway, 3802 South Del Mabry Highway Suite B and Suite B2, 3804 South Del Mabry Highway, and 3804 South Del Mabry Highway A, B, and C, 3802 Britton Plaza A and C, and 3618 West Euclid Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning districts classification, RS50, residential single family to CG commercial general, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from
Any
Councilman.
waivers allowed?
We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Vieira. Carlson,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Number 11.
For the record, again, Christopher DeMonge, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 11 is REZ 2595. This is a request to rezone 2802 West Kennedy Boulevard from CG to PD to allow for restaurant, drive-in, and all CG uses. We start with the site plan. The subject site is outlined in red. It is located along the south side of West Kennedy, and it's also located along the west side of South Havana Avenue. Looking at surrounded uses, we have CG zoning to the north, the east, and the west. The zoning uses, the uses within that zoning are comprised of retail uses, business office, as well as a gas station. Immediately south of the subject site, we have RM16 zoning. We also have PD zoning to the southeast of the subject site that was developed with single-family attached uses. The existing site is developed with an existing one-story structure. The structure itself totals 1,645 square feet and was previously used for a restaurant use. The subject site is also located within the Kennedy Boulevard Corridor District, and development must comply with the requirements set forth in Section 27-243, Kennedy Boulevard Corridor District Development Design Standards at the time of permitting. We do have a site plan provided by the applicant. The site plan shows the existing one-story building. The site provides ingress, egress off of South Havana Avenue, as well as site circulation. A drive-through is proposed on the western side of the subject site with a pickup window on the south side of the building. There are approximately 9 parking spaces that are proposed with the site. We do have elevations as well, just to show the existing building. They did add some graphics just to show, you know, existing versus what they're proposing, but there are 3 waivers requested with this application as well. And we do have site photos. This is the view of the subject site from West Kennedy Boulevard. This is the view from South Havana Avenue. This is from the rear side of the building. View from the western side. This is looking north across West Kennedy. Immediately south of the subject site. East of the subject site. And west of the subject site. Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We find the request inconsistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations, notwithstanding staff's finding of inconsistency. If the City Council approves the application, modifications to the site plan as shown on the submitted revision sheet must be completed between first and second reading. These revisions will not resolve the issues with transportation's inconsistent finding, and I'm available for any questions.
Council have any questions? Councilman Carlson, you good? Okay. Mr. Collins?
Danny Collins, with your Planning Commission staff, I was sworn in. This site's within the Central Tampa Planning District. It's in Evacuation Zone C, and it's within the Urban Mixed Use 60 designation, which is found along Kennedy Boulevard. There is some residential 20 directly to the south of the subject site. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. It was comparable to the uses that are found along West Kennedy Boulevard. The applicant has addressed the mixed-use corridor policies of the plan. The PD orients the building towards West Kennedy Boulevard, includes a direct pedestrian connection to the sidewalk, internal walkways, and a bike rack is provided. Although there is no existing sidewalk along the site's eastern boundary, the applicant proposes type 1 shade trees along South Havana Avenue to enhance the streetscape and better define the street edge. The drive-through window is oriented towards the side lot line rather than the public right-of-way, which is consistent with policies encouraging drive-through windows to maintain an active and pedestrian-friendly frontage. If approved, the Planning Commission staff recommends adding a sidewalk along South Havana Avenue. The applicant has agreed to this request when we reached out to them a few weeks ago in an email dated on September 30th. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Council have any questions? Hearing none, applicant.
Good evening, Council. Troy Carter, Suncoast Civil. I'm the engineer of record for this project, and I have been sworn. It is getting late. I thought staff gave a great presentation. They've been wonderful to work with. I'm going to skip my talking points for now and just answer any questions you guys may have about this project.
Does Council have any questions? You can parlay my displeasure to the owner that they took away my favorite Chinese restaurant.
I've heard very good things about it. I've heard very good things.
Very good. Hearing no questions. Anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to close?
Second.
A motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Roll call, please. Oh, time to read it. I'm trying to push it along. Councilman Vieira.
Yes. I hereby move an ordinance presented for first reading consideration or rezoning property general for city of 2802 West Kennedy Boulevard, city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CG, commercial general to PD, planned development, restaurant, drive-in, and CG uses, providing an effective date.
Don't laugh at me. We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Hurtak.
Yes.
Vieira. Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. And our last item, man, I predicted 11 o'clock. I was way off.
Yeah, we're thrilled. Good.
Yeah, yeah. Here we
We had a
go,
good
number
audience.
12. Oh, Lord. Somebody mute Councilman Maniscalco's mic. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Christopher DeMonch with Development Coordination. Agenda item number 12 is REZ 25101. This is a request to rezone 1501 West Gray Street from RS 50 to RM 18 residential multifamily. We'll start with, I forgot my pen. We'll start with an aerial of the subject site. Subject site is outlined in red. It is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of West Gray Street and North Oregon Avenue. The subject site is currently developed with a single-family detached unit. Looking at the surrounding uses, to the immediate north of the subject site is a triplex. To the east and south of the subject site are single-family detached uses, and immediately west of the subject site is a vacant parcel. The existing zoning to the north, south, east, and west is all RS 50. Looking a little further out from the subject site, 2 blocks north, we do have an RM 18 zoning. We also have a planned development zoning that was the site was developed with 2 single-family detached units. We also had 2 recent applications on the south side of Arch Street that were approved for single-family semi-detached units, 1318 and 1320 West Arch Street. Additionally, looking south, there are some warehouses located on the north side of West Cypress Street, and then multifamily south of West Cypress Street. And then looking to the east, there is a planned development at the intersection of West Gray Street and North Willow Avenue. This site was approved back in '96 for an adult care living facility. The site is also within the West Tampa overlay, and development must comply with the requirements of Section 27241, the West Tampa Overlay District Development Design Standards at the time of permitting. We do have a survey. So, site is outlined in green. There's approximately 57 feet of street frontage along West Gray Street and 95 feet of frontage along North Oregon Avenue. With this being a Euclidean rezoning, we do not have a site plan or elevations to show, but I do have some site photos. This is the view of the subject site from West Gray Street. This is the view from North Oregon Avenue, north of the subject site. South of the subject site, east of the subject site, and west of the subject site. Development Coordination Compliance staff has reviewed this application. We do find the request consistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Mr. Collins. Your closing performance.
Last one. Danny Collins with Planning Commission staff. Our last rezoning tonight is within the Central Tampa Planning District, specifically the West Tampa Urban Village. The site is in Evacuation Zone C. It is designated R20 as well as the surrounding properties. Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with a number of policies in the plan. The request would introduce housing at slightly higher densities than the surrounding neighborhood, which is supported by the plan. The plan also encourages pedestrian-friendly multifamily and attached single-family development with front doors that are oriented towards a neighborhood sidewalk or street. The applicant should ensure that this policy is addressed during the site plan review process. The rezoning also supports a number of the plan's housing strategies by accommodating growth to meet Tampa's future and present population demands. The comprehensive plan directs the greatest share of growth to the urban villages. This request is consistent with that policy, as will provide additional housing in West Tampa. Based on the above considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa comprehensive plan, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Applicant.
Good evening, Council. James Lascara, the owner and applicant of Poseidon 25 Developments. I live on the street, live a half block away. We love doing projects in our own community. Excited to be found consistent across the board, and excited to do another project in the West Tampa CRA. Respectfully request your approval. Stand by for any questions.
Council have any questions? No. Is anybody in the public who wishes to speak to this item? Can we get a motion to close? Second. We have a close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Councilwoman Hertzog.
Yep, we need to vote on that.
Oh, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilwoman Hertzog.
Yes, file number REZ 25-101, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, and ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1501 West Grace Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to RM18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hertzog, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. A roll call vote, please.
Vieira. Yes. Carlson.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Maniscalco. Yes. Hertzog. Yes. Clendenin.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on November the 6th, 2025 at 10 a.m. at Old City Hall, located at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you for great presentations. Kept it all moving quickly. Thank you. Okay, we're back to new business. Councilman Vieira.
I don't think I have anything, but I did want to mention. I did.
Well, okay. He did give 7 commendations today.
I know. It brings up my total to whatever it is. No, but I did want to say this is a personal note that I promised our friend, y'all know Santiago Carrata. He's a big Kiss fan, and y'all may have seen that Ace Frehley died, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the spaceman. I mean, he was a great musician, wrote Parasite, did Shock Me, Rocket Ride, so many great songs, The New York Groove, and of course, Rip It Out, which was the first song on his solo album. So in 1978, Kiss did 4 solo albums, and his was the best. He was extremely talented. My son and I saw him about a year ago in concert, and it's funny, Alan, I had your aide, Sam, print this out. This is a picture of my son and I meeting Ace Frehley about a year ago, which is pretty cool. And we got his autograph.
Put that in the record.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I will. Here, take it. There you go. Let it be in the archives of the city of Tampa that we met Ace Frehley.
Well, Gene Simmons got in an accident, right? Right after you met him.
I saw, and
I think that doesn't bode well for you.
I know you're right. We got to meet Gene Simmons too, which was awesome.
And he was in a car accident just a couple of days later.
Just after. No, but honestly, though, again, with Ace Frehley, he was a great musician, and just God rest his soul. Kiss is very special to me. I didn't used to like Kiss until like 5 years ago. My son's a big Kiss fan, and so we have like all the Kiss vinyl and I think like 70 Kiss bootleg, and we're actually going to Vegas to see Kiss in a month. So that's it.
Well,
just wanted to say that.
You can touch me. I saw Kiss when they were hot at the Lakeland Civic Center.
Wow, what year?
It was 1970 something, because by the way, at that point Orlando had no concert venues. You had to go to Lakeland to see a concert.
Whoa!
That's how crazy it was. Lakeland was the big city. That was yeah. Very good.
So that's before Disney then. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Councilwoman Hertzog.
I have a request by the Planning Commission to remove TACPA 25-04 from the October 30th, 2025, 5:01 p.m. adoption public hearing.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, ayes have it.
And I have an announcement of a public hearing. A public hearing will be held regarding a proposed brownfield area designation for the rehabilitation and redevelopment of 2 adjacent parcels owned by Broadway Holdings LLC located in the general vicinity of 1921 North 53rd Street and 1810 North 57th Street, Tampa, Florida 33605, totaling approximately 12.33 acres. The public hearing will be held in the Roland Mantega event room at the Hilton Garden Inn, Tampa Ybor Historic District, located at 1700 East 9th Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33605 on November 3rd, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. and until not later than 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
In
That was
fact,
just a public announcement.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the first hotel that was built in Ybor City, new, 30 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, it was a public announcement. That was an announcement. Is that it? Yeah. Councilman Maniscalco.
Speaking of the Lakeland Civic Center, one of my parents' first dates was there to see the police. Wow. Not Sting and the police.
I saw Alice Cooper there. I saw Kiss there.
Lots of places. But I do have a true motion here.
Okay.
That staff report for annual presentation on red light camera program. This is to be placed under October 23rd staff reports.
Second.
This was a request to be made, so I know it's a 1-week thing, but it's staff report for an annual presentation of the red light camera program from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025 per Florida State Statute Section 316.00834 that must include a written summary read aloud at a city council meeting under staff report.
So this came from the.
Yeah, it came from the top.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
That's it.
Opposed, ayes have it unanimously. Councilman Miranda.
As I promised months ago that I would turn in my electric bill, I'm turning them in now, so if you want to see them, they're here.
Oh,
What are they? Read them to us. Let us know.
Well, the month of September was $14.99.
Oh, my word.
The month of October, 16th was $15.
Do you run your air conditioner?
So I want to turn them in like I said I would.
Do you run an air conditioner?
This is what Silver does for you.
You're not going to answer my question.
Do you run an air conditioning?
I'll run everything.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I need somebody,
Okay.
I would like somebody to make a motion. There, you can read that right there. No staff reports on.
Okay, so I make a motion that there are no additional staff reports on the November 20th meeting, starting at because we are starting at 11 a.m. due to the Great American Teach-In. There is a public hearing at 1:30.
That's fine. Second.
Okay. So we're capped at no more staff reports, I think. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it.
And I want to mention that I have already signed up for the Great American Teach-In. If you haven't already, because we are finally getting the chance to do this, please make sure that you do. Okay, so you're hearing that. How many of you already have?
I've done it several times in the
No, but I mean, do you have something already? Okay, so we do have council members available. I know it's early for you, but this is so important.
I've done a lot of them in the
So-
past. As in air traffic, I used to do a lot of teach-ins.
Well,
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so that is the close of business for this evening. At 8:38 p.m., we have a motion to receive and file from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. We are adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.